Sergeant Perez, if you could please check the live streams.
Checking on the live stream. I'll let you know when we're good to go.
Thank you.
Live stream began.
Sergeant Biondo, stream on virtual channel 1 and virtual room 1 and ASL on virtual room 1 are both functioning properly. Would you like us
Perfect.
to start the recordings?
I'm going to start the computer recording now. You start the cloud, please.
The cloud is rolling.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing for the Committee on Technology. At this time, with all panelists, please turn on their videos for verification purposes. And to minimize disruptions upon speaking, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you'd like to submit testimony, please send via email to testimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is testimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair Gutierrez, we are ready to begin.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for attending today's hearing. Before I get started, I just want to throw out that there is a convening today at 11 a.m. in support of the Women's Caucus, and I would love for those who can attend to please make it in support of a position of the decision that was leaked yesterday. So I just want to plug that before my opening statement. Good morning. I am Councilmember Jennifer Gutierrez, and I am the chair of the Committee on Technology. I would like to welcome you all to our hearing today. We're here to discuss the Link NYC program, including the Link NYC network rollout, the new agreement with City Bridge LLC, and concerns from our constituents. It's hard to imagine our daily participation in modern society without a dependable internet connection. As such, in 2014, New York City reached a franchise agreement with City Bridge LLC and launched the Link NYC public-private partnership to replace the city's old public payphones with modern Link NYC kiosks that equipped with cameras and sensors to provide free high-speed wireless internet service to New York City residents and visitors. These efforts go toward minimizing the digital divide and making New York a more modern city. In return, City Bridge receives revenue from kiosk advertisements and pays the city franchise fees. While the Link NYC program has the potential to ease inequity and deliver better internet services for city residents, imprudent expansion of such a program may in turn threaten civil rights and exacerbate existing inequities. It is no secret that the digital divide is deeper along socioeconomic and neighborhood lines. For instance, the oft-high costs of internet access contribute to the digital divide, which bars many from readily accessing the internet. Importantly, as of today, about 1,870 Link NYC kiosks are installed in the city. However, the majority of these kiosks are located in Lower Manhattan, where it is more lucrative advertising revenue incentivize the rollout. In fact, more than 60% of all installed kiosks are located in Manhattan. The rest of the Link NYC kiosks are scattered across the other boroughs, meaning less than 40% of kiosks are distributed across Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Staten Island. In responding to this inequitable rollout of Link NYC kiosks, we must be careful in expansion from both equity and integrity standpoints. Without the adequate safeguards and privacy policies in place, New Yorkers and visitors face a potential threat of a mass surveillance network of cameras, sensors, and data collection that follows people without their consent and without oversight. Therefore, we should make sure that the efforts to expand Link NYC and correct for prior inequities do not contribute to mass surveillance and jeopardize privacy and the security of collected data. In March 2018, City Bridge stopped paying franchise fees they owed per their original agreement. In March 2020, DeWitt testified that as of that date, City Bridge owed the city $75 million in revenue sharing programs. Had they continued with the original agreement, City Bridge would have owed the city approximately another $98 million between March 2020 and March 2022. However, in response to the non-payment, DeWitt reached an approved amended agreement with City Bridge in June of last year, which worked out terms for repayment and future build-out of Link NYC kiosks. This committee looks forward to hearing more about the new terms of this agreement with City Bridge, with the hopes of seeing a significant step towards closing the digital divide in New York City, namely by bringing internet to the people in need without sacrificing their privacy. Link NYC program holds great potential for helping the city ensure more equitable internet access for New Yorkers and close its digital divide. In closing, I would like to thank our tech committee staff, including Counsel Irene Buyovsky, Policy Analyst Charles Kim, Data Analyst Nicholas Montalbano and James Wu, and my Chief of Staff Anna Bezendorf, and Florentine from our Finance Division. I'd also like to recognize the council members from the committee who are present today. I know we are joined by Councilmember Sean Abreu, Councilmember Bob Holden, Councilmember Palladino. I hope that that's everyone. Let me just check. Yes. I will now turn it over to the committee counsel, Irene, to go over some procedural items.
Thank you, Chair Gutierrez. I'm Irene Buyovsky, the Council on Technology, and I will be moderating this hearing today. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that you will be on mute until you are called on to testify. During the hearing, I will be calling on panelists to testify. Please listen for your name to be called. I will be periodically announcing who the next panelist will be. We will first be hearing testimonies from the administration, followed by testimonies from franchisee City Bridge, and testimonies from the members of the public. During the hearing, if council members would like to ask questions of the administration or a specific panelist, please use the Zoom raise hand function and I will call on you. We will be limiting council members' questions to 3 minutes. And I will next call representatives of the administration to testify. We will be hearing testimony from the Chief Operation Officer, Michael McGrath. Additionally, General Counsel Tanya Richard and Senior Director Brett Sikoff will be available to answer any questions. At this time, I will administer the affirmation to each representative of the administration. I will call on each of you individually for response. So please raise your right hands. Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
Michael McGrath?
I do.
Ms. Richard?
I do.
And Mr. Sikoff?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath, you may begin your testimony.
Sure. Good morning and thank you. Okay. Good morning, Chair Gutierrez and members of the City Council Committee on Technology. My name is Michael McGrath and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Office of Technology Innovation. In my role, I oversee the office's franchises and broadband portfolio. With me today is Tanya Richard, as noted a few moments ago, and OTI's General Counsel, and Brett Sikoff, Senior Director of Mobile Telecom Franchises. I thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on Link NYC. This is the city's revenue-generating program that brings free high-speed Wi-Fi, free calling, mobile device charging, and access to 911 and 311, all at no cost to taxpayers. Over the last year, we've taken many crucial steps to reinvigorate this important program, and I'm pleased to share our progress and the many exciting things to come. Link NYC is one of many initiatives that support Mayor Adams' goal to bring broadband access to historically underserved communities. We believe not having reliable, affordable access to broadband severely limits large segments of the population from fully participating in society. Internet access is not a luxury, but a necessity. The pandemic brought the pandemic brought the digital divide into focus, laying bare the gaps in learning and productivity for those who did not have the access at their fingertips. While this program does not solve the digital divide alone, the network itself, in addition to the fiber and 5G infrastructure that it will bring to neighborhoods across the city, is a huge step in the right direction. For those not familiar with the program, Link NYC, launched in 2015, was originally conceived as an innovative approach to replace the city's outdated public pay telephone infrastructure while providing free Wi-Fi as part of an overachieving goal to help close the digital divide. The city entered into a non-exclusive franchise with the consortium, City Bridge, to deploy Link NYC kiosks citywide. The franchise model allows the city to enter into contracts with the companies to use the city's rights of way, streets and sidewalks, in exchange for fees. Thus, the Link NYC program does not and has never cost the city money. In fact, it has generated over $108 million to the city over the course of the franchise so far. Today, Link NYC kiosks have become a ubiquitous part of the city's streetscape, physically in that almost every PPT has been removed, and virtually as their services have impacted millions of people. Over 10.7 million Wi-Fi subscribers have used over 25,000 terabytes of data from the nearly 1,900 Link kiosks installed across the 5 boroughs. The other services are also frequently used. Over the last year, on average, New York City residents and visitors have made 425,000 calls per month and accessed Find Help, the app that connects users to nearby social service, about 5,000 times per month. The impact of the Link NYC network is so much more than the direct services the kiosks provide. According to CityBridge, about 1 million miles of fiber have been invested in our streets since the program began, and there is a planned expansion of Link NYC into new neighborhoods that have been historically overlooked as it relates to fiber infrastructure. This fiber does not simply enable the Wi-Fi. It represents a huge investment in infrastructure, again, all at no cost to taxpayers, for future broadband providers to lease. This lays the groundwork for potential internet service providers to bring in new residential broadband options that are sorely needed. One illustrative example of the potential for the fiber is the build out of what's known as Gigabit Centers, which are community-based organizations chosen in collaboration with borough presidents to be outfitted with high-speed broadband for the general public's use. The fiber is pulled into the building to create an indoor Wi-Fi network. Recently, we launched the first Gigabit Center at Silicon Harlem in Manhattan. CityBridge has also completed the outfitting of the Bronx Gigabit Center.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Apologies. I have to just pause your testimony for a second. I just need to check on the captions. I apologize for the interruption. Steno captions, because they're running closed captioning. Is there a reason why your hand is raised?
Yes, I need the speakers to please slow down so I can caption accurately. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Understood.
Yeah, sir, if you could just speak a little bit slower, I appreciate that.
You got it.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem at all. Maybe I'll redo that one paragraph if that's fine. One illustrative.
That's perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool. One illustrative example of the potential for the fiber is the build out of Gigabit Centers, which are community-based organizations chosen in collaboration with borough presidents to be outfitted with high-speed broadband for the general public's use. The fiber is pulled into the building to create an indoor Wi-Fi network. Recently, we launched the first Gigabit Center at Silicon Harlem in Manhattan. CityBridge has also completed the outfitting of the Bronx's Gigabit Center at the Andrew Friedman home, and we plan to locate at least one of these in each borough. In the coming months, the Link NYC franchise is bringing another long-term investment in telecommunications infrastructure, 5G. The city is committed to having the most up-to-date, equitably distributed, highest quality telecommunications infrastructure of any major city in the world, and the new Link NYC kiosk design, known as Link 5G, is a key component of that goal. Get rid of those. Okay, sorry about that. 5G is ultimately the network that will power mobile device connectivity for years to come, and enabling its expansion is essential. Link 5G will be an important component of the city's overall strategy to proliferate 5G access citywide. Getting to this point has not been without challenges. The issues we have faced with CityBridge are well documented. For several years, the program operated, but was no longer expanding. Deployment, particularly in boroughs outside Manhattan, had stalled, and the company was unable to make revenue payments as required by the franchise agreement. We decided that the continued success of the program was important to the city, so we proposed an amendment that would restructure the franchise and secure its viability in the future. While a stable revenue model was important, delivering on Link NYC's original promise of digital equity was paramount. This is why we committed to deploying 90% of all future Link NYC kiosks above 96th Street in Manhattan and throughout the Bronx, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and Queens. Further, we identified 13 equity districts across all 5 boroughs that have required build minimums. These districts were chosen based on the lack of broadband options, lower median annual income, lack of existing Link NYC footprint, and high levels of pedestrian and street traffic. To keep the program running and expanding it into these neighborhoods, a more realistic and reliable revenue stream was necessary. Instead of relying solely on the demand for advertising space for revenue, we proposed a mixed financial model, including advertising and 5G cellular services. This new approach would allow the proliferation of Link NYC's core services, while also bringing next-gen cellular connectivity to underserved areas citywide. I want to emphasize here that the revenue generated by essentially renting out space on Link kiosks for wireless companies to use for the propagation of 5G would be consistent and more future-proof. The amendment to the Link NYC franchise that included these provisions was approved by the Franchise and Concession Review Committee last June. In order to fulfill the build-out and revenue targets laid out in the new agreement, the Link NYC kiosk needed to be redesigned to accommodate 5G wireless equipment. Thus, Link 5G was conceived, providing for multi-tenant, multi-technology wireless services. The new design aims to maintain the aesthetic of both the existing Link NYC footprint and the approved 5G shroud for pole tops. Once presented to the public design, the design was improved upon with feedback from commissioners. In December 2021, the PDC approved the new Link 5G design for deployment in commercial and manufacturing districts. With these important milestones behind us, we are very focused on moving forward to fulfill the digital equity promise that this program originally presented. Once the amendment to the franchise agreement was passed, we implemented a new internal governance strategy and immediately got to work laying out plans for deployment. We have since installed Link NYC kiosks in the original design in several neighborhoods across the city, mostly in places where Link NYC build-out was a long time coming, including Hunts Point and Inwood as example. We have proposed dozens of new sites to borough presidents, community boards, council members, and business improvement districts as part of our public outreach process, and are actively working with stakeholders to identify sites that make sense within discrete communities. Upon PDC's approval of the Link 5G design, we started working with CityBridge to identify viable sites once the units were ready for installation. By the end of this June, we aim to install and activate the very first Link 5G kiosk. Thereafter, Link 5G kiosks will be installed in the neighborhoods across all 5 boroughs, ushering in a new era of connectivity that will be available to New Yorkers in every corner of our city. I thank you for the opportunity to highlight this important program for the committee, and I'm happy to answer council members' questions.
Mr. McGrath, thank you very much for your testimony. I will now turn over to questions from the chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. McGrath. My first question is related to the contract, and you may hear some according to the amendments that were made last year. So the first one is CityBridge stopped paying their franchise fees in March 2018. At our budget hearing in 2020, Commissioner Tisch testified on behalf of DoIT as the new commissioner of DoIT. In quote, as the new commissioner of DoIT, I poised to take any and all necessary actions against multiple breaches of contract to collect the money that city is owed. Further, it was stated that, quote, I stand ready to use the various tools at my disposal to ensure CityBridge either fulfills its contractual obligations or that the city collects the $100 million in security on the Link program that we hold, end quote. What has been done to make sure that CityBridge fulfills its contractual obligations, and why did the city choose to amend the agreement instead of collecting security?
So relative to the outstanding payments that CityBridge had with the city, under Amendment 3 of the contract, the $60 million that was due to the city was put into a schedule, and the upfront payment for that was $25 million. And as of today, based on the amendment, we are current and up to date in payments from CityBridge. I hope that answers your question.
Well, yeah, so that was after the amendment, but I guess the question is more or less, I think initially before the agreement for an amendment was made, what was the impetus to decide to come to an agreement as opposed to collecting from them immediately? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
why did they get a second chance essentially, and why did y'all work with them for an amendment as opposed to making them pay what they were supposed to pay?
Okay, yes, thank you, and I'll answer it this way, and if we need to talk more, sure. There were 1,800 plus units out there in the street, and to give up on what had been deployed already, we felt was not a benefit to the city. The usage statistics on the links up to that point are fairly and remain fairly significant. So having 1,800 units go dark around the city and then having to address that in that manner, we felt was not a service to the city, and actually renegotiating the payments and the go forward approach we felt was better for the better strategy for the city, especially in light of the inbound 5G technology. And we wanted to help that add to that and propagate that throughout the city.
Thank you. That answers it. Why did City Bridge stop paying?
So the payments from City Bridge had stopped in part due to I'll call it the forecasted projections that were in the original agreement. They were just not realistic, and the ad revenues that they were getting were not meeting those forecasts.
I do want to get into their forecasting in a bit, but I do want to make sure that I'm just asking these questions directly. So they stopped paying because whatever they had projected they just didn't have the money to meet what they were projecting. Got
Correct.
it. Okay, so having this information, why have you agreed to receive on average only $3 million yearly from City Bridge?
So the new forecast that we have in the agreement basically stems from a review of what had occurred and a review of the realistic potential of what could occur in the future. And those were the numbers that were developed based on the projections of the build out in the future.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry to take it back. You were the previous question asking why you all chose to work with City Bridge on an amendment. You said that the usage was significant. There was 1,800 plus units that were out and people were utilizing them. Was the implication that if the city did not go into an agreement or did not make an amendment to their contract, all of the kiosks would have been rendered useless, like they would have gone dark?
Yeah, that's correct. So the contract with City Bridge would have ended, and the ability to use the devices would turn off.
Okay, it seems like a hostage situation there. Okay. What will happen at the end of the contract term? And what will happen with the kiosks?
Well, the hope at this point, given that the process has started again, is that we would continue to build through the term of the program, and then as we near the end of the program, we would negotiate an extended term. And
with City Bridge still?
We would start. Yeah. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Sorry, let me just make notes of all the questions that I'm asking you. Okay. According to page 9 of the amended agreement, every 4 months, City Bridge will provide to do it for review and approval a periodic installation schedule and build out documentation. Has City Bridge provided any since the execution of the latest amendment? And if yes, where can we access them?
So yeah, the answer is yes. We've worked very closely with City Bridge since the amendment was signed. As far as access to those, I believe we can provide. I'll take a note of that. We can definitely get that information and provide it to you. I just can't, off the top of my head, tell you where located at this specific moment, but it is information that's available.
It's available. Okay, and so would it be also available to the public?
Yes.
Okay, great. City Bridge collects its revenue from selling ads on Link NYC kiosks. Are there any other streams of income?
Yes, there are other streams of income. There are a total of 5. No, 5. I'm sorry. I retract that. I looked at the wrong piece of paper. There are, in addition to the ad revenue with the Link 5G, they'll be able to generate revenue with leasing that space out to the carriers. Sorry about that.
So aside just from the profit from the ads, it's just the leasing out to carriers that they would have income generated from this?
Yes, correct. So when we looked at the existing Link NYC kiosk, there was the sole source of income there was the ad revenue. And with the newer model that we've designed, it's the ad revenue plus the addition of the 5G within the tower. And that 5G space can be rented by carriers to install their equipment. And that would be an additional stream of revenue on top of the ads.
Do you have a sense of what that revenue could look like?
We have our forecast for our minimum annual guarantees. I think City Bridge would probably be able to provide more information on the actual numbers.
And is the forecast DUITs or City Bridge? You can see why I'm apprehensive about City Bridge's forecasting.
Yeah, and the city, we anticipate. So we anticipate the forborn, I'm sorry, the MAG, the minimal annual guarantee is a couple $1 million a month. And that's what the forecast is for us. And that's based on a build schedule that aligns with City Bridge's estimates.
Okay. About 2 million a month. Okay, thank you. Okay, and my next question is, does the city permit data mining and push advertising from the Wi-Fi while sharing the revenue while the city with the city, excuse me?
No, that answer is no.
No.
It does not.
Okay, let me just check to see, do any of the council members on the call have any questions? If not, I will continue. Oh, yes, let me throw it over. Irene, do I throw it to you, or can we have Councilmember Holden ask his question?
Absolutely, Councilmember Holden, you can begin your questions.
Starting time.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your testimony. Can I go? All right.
Absolutely, Councilmember Holden.
All right. So have the public payphones, have they all been removed?
All but 2 at this point.
All but 2. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
we're right there. We're right there.
All right. So how many of those kiosks are working and providing Wi-Fi? And are any of the units around the city not working?
There are a small number that are, in our maintenance bucket, if you will, but it's currently 1,860 or so that are up and operational.
Okay, excuse me if I missed this, but this because maybe you answered this question, but I had to jump out for a second. In Link NYC, is Link NYC on target to complete the installation of the 2,761 links, which was a number agreed to the amendment? If not, how many will be installed by July 2022 at the end of the contract year 8?
Okay, so we are currently on schedule with the build year plan that was laid out in the agreement. We hit the build year.
Excuse me. Apologies again. There's some technical issues that we need to resolve on the back end. Sorry about the interruption. If we're just gonna pause for a second, if it's okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
And timer was paused as well.
Thank you.
Again, folks, thanks for your patience. We should be resuming in just a moment. We're just going to do a quick audio test for ASL live stream services.
Sounds good.
If we could have confirmation that audio is coming through properly.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I didn't realize the mute would ask you to unmute it. But yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mr. McGrath, just give us one more moment. I'm just confirming that our audio is in sync with our interpreters.
No problem.
We can resume. Apologies for the delays. Just some technical issues on the back end, but it seems like it's resolved.
Just hold one moment. I don't think we are resolved yet with the ASL interpretation room. We're still
Okay.
having an issue playing the video.
Okay.
Once again, folks, thank you for your patience. We should be resuming in a moment. And it does look like we are streaming properly now. So our committee council would like to restart.
Yeah, I think we're all ready. And I believe we stopped with Councilmember Holden's question.
Yes, resuming
Yes,
timer.
Thank you. Mr. McGrath, I don't know if you finished with the question on the installation goals. Did you finish that? answer?
We could just rehash it either way.
All
But yes, I believe you asked if they're on, essentially, we are on target based on our plans to meet the build year schedule as laid out in the agreement, council member. And at this point, that's our trajectory, is to meet those numbers that were laid out.
So 2,761 by 2022, by July
Oh,
2022.
that's actually, I think we have you off by a year there. That's build year 8, which is 2023. Build year 7, which is 2022, gets us to 2,226, and that number is the number we're on target for
Okay.
right now.
All right. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Yep.
So you said that the kiosks will be installed in commercial and manufacturing zones. What about mixed use areas that include residential?
That's approved as well.
So so if you have, you can have a giant kiosk in front of your window. Let's say if you live above a store.
There are you may be aware, and others may be aware, there are siting criteria which we have to meet in order to place the unit in a targeted area. And those items, amongst others, many others, are on that list. And we try to avoid that where we can, based on those rules.
All right, because these are what's the height of these kiosks?
32 feet.
32 feet. So that go up to probably a 3rd story window, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So that's so the siting criteria will have to, and again, you said it's going to go before the community boards and council members. Right. I have a total of 4 kiosks in my entire district, both on the edges. That means I think I have 2 on the edge on the northern district, and then north of the border, and then I have south. So I didn't get any notification of any kiosks being installed. Obviously in Queens, which we don't have that many.
Okay.
So is there a schedule on community board notification, or just certain community boards are notified?
Okay. Yes. So by process that we have today, for any new sites that go in, we do start with the borough president's office and others, as noted previously. And the initial push from the agreement was to address the equity districts first, but we will get to every council community district in the 5 boroughs. It's just with using the equity districts first to drive more into those areas that need it the most.
That needed the most. Okay.
If that
Time expired.
One other question, Chair, if I may. We desperately need Wi-Fi at bus shelters. Is there any way of combining the two, either with the kiosks or just Wi-Fi for bus shelters? Is there a plan on that? So, installing Wi-Fi at bus shelters?
No, the Link NYC program is different from any bus structures and any projects that are related to that.
No, but what I'm saying is also the siting of these could be located near, the kiosk could be located near a bus shelter or right at a bus shelter. Is that possible?
No, based on, actually, if I could pause for 1 second, Brett Sykoff, who's with me, Senior Director for Mobile Telecom, and actually he's closer to that and can answer better.
Hi, folks. It's Brett Sykoff. Councilmember, to answer your question, there is siting criteria related to the proximity between a link structure and other advertising structures and trees and other fire hydrants and other types of things. So while there may be a link within line of sight of a bus shelter, it would not be located immediately adjacent to one. But it's very likely that a link within 30 to 50 feet away will still provide the coverage to the folks who are waiting at a bus shelter.
Yeah, so if one was located across the street from a bus shelter, you would pick it up then. You
For
could-
sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Holden. I'm turning it back to the chair for questions. Chair
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Thank you, Councilmember Holden. Those are great questions. I wanted to ask about Zenfi networks. Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's okay. I was waiting for your head nod. So Zenfi Networks, a telecom infrastructure company, agreed to invest $200 million in City Bridge to help restart the program as part of the larger 5G build out in New York. What is Zenfi Networks' role in this project? And yeah, let me start there. What is their role in this bigger project?
So Zenfi came on as a strategic investor in the program as part of that period of time where we signed the new agreement. They currently hold other franchises with the city as a heads up, most notably in mobile telecommunications franchise. And for that, they add they bring to the table a lot of experience in the industry and from the industry, and we believe that that's a big boost to getting to where we need to get to, especially with the onset of 5G in the design.
What do they receive in return, I guess, besides broadening their portfolio?
Maybe I'm not understanding the question. What do they receive from the city?
I guess, like, what is you said that they were a strategic partner.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know, because it's a pretty sizable amount of money to invest in the project. So what are they getting out of it?
Oh, okay.
What is the benefit to them in
So-
partnering for this?
Yeah. The idea of adding 5G, first of all, the idea of adding 5G onto the pole is part of where they can help us, as we noted, in terms of propagating 5G throughout the city, especially to underserved areas. But the other piece of it is, or other pieces of it that could be seen, there's a bigger fiber footprint that would go out throughout the city as well. And so with that, one of the benefits that comes with the fiber footprint expanding through the city, especially to the underserved areas, and I keep touching on that because it's key, is the eventual ability to lease that out for home broadband, which then even helps those districts and neighborhoods even more.
Thank you. I'm just writing that on.
They'll be able to sell that basically.
Oh, okay. And do you have a sense of what that timeline looks like when they would be able to sell home broadband?
No, not right now. Based on,
I know that they're testifying, so maybe I can direct this question to them as well.
Okay.
And then can you go into a little bit of detail about what the agreement between City Bridge and Zenfi Networks is, or what it looks like?
That's a contract between those entities, and I unfortunately don't have information.
Okay. Do you know who will have ownership over the franchise structure at the end of the franchise period?
City Bridge. Sorry, I just had to think for a quick sec there, but it's City Bridge who owns the units and maintains them.
Okay. Let me go back to my order here. Okay, so now I'm just gonna ask some general questions. And it goes a little bit into what Councilmember Holden asked just about the installation of the remaining kiosks. Can you share with us what of that work is being prioritized right now? We're halfway through the year. As I understand, you are projected to meet your goal for installation this year. Can you explain a little bit more about like where we can expect these installations? And then can you go into detail about where the remaining installations will go in the following year?
Sure. Absolutely. And as noted earlier, the agreement that we have in place today is to install 90% of them above 96th Street and in the other 4 boroughs. So that is the goal, to drive this into the areas that need it most. And so right now the build year 6 is complete. That ended December 31st, and we're in the midst of build year 7. The goal for build year 5 was 50 units. The build year 7 was 310 units. And that is our target right now, which would put the total number of structures, 2,761 is the target, give or take one. But Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I did something earlier that I caught. 2,226 is the number that we're targeting for the end of build year
For
7.
this year,
Yeah, correct.
for this year, but the total was 2761.
No. So I'm going to restate that. The total at the end of build year 7, the cumulative total at the end of build year 7 would be 2,226 units as a target.
Mhm.
The number I gave you was the build year 8 number. I'm sorry. I had it written down from an earlier.
No, that's okay. I think it's important to know. So between, we're in year 7 right now.
Yes, correct.
So between this year and next year, potentially stated to install close to 400-ish more kiosks.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. And then can you just repeat, you said at the top of the answer, 90% of those remaining kiosks will be installed above 96th Street?
So yeah, in the agreement, we have a target of 4,000 total overall the build years. We're trying to get to a target of 4,000. The units that we need to build to get to that number, 90% of those will be installed above 96th Street in Manhattan and in the other 4 boroughs.
Okay. I will be asking at some point just a little bit more about where in the boroughs. I think
Sure.
to Councilmember Holden's point, he's got 4 in his district, and I think just the equity of how they've been cited has not really been existent. So I'll ask those questions in a little bit.
No problem.
And then I'm sorry, and just to confirm, are any of the new kiosks, so any of the ones that you are slated to install this year or next year, are they still replacing payphones, or are some of these kiosks just going to be in different locations now?
Yes, a number of them do replace PPTs, payphones, and there are a number of them in what we call greenfield locations, new sites.
Okay, and that means no payphones, just a bare sidewalk.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. The kiosks that are installed and awaiting power and or fiber to be connected were installed at the end of 2021. How long does it typically take for a kiosk to be activated after installation is completed?
So from installation to activation, I'll say 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. That's right. I just have to get through the process in my head, but 2 weeks about to activate.
2 weeks. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay. Some advocates have raised issues related to data privacy and security. The city has the ability to embed privacy protections into the franchising process. Instead, the franchise agreement states that, quote, the franchise retains ownership rights in all data created in the course of providing the Wi-Fi services to the extent that such data doesn't include personally identifiable information. Given this fact, why are privacy protections not addressed in the latest amendment? And I'm sorry, if you could just also just remember to speak a little slower for the interpretation. Thank you.
Sorry. All right. So I'm not quite sure about that statement that the policy doesn't exist. The agreement does have policies written into it. They are enforceable. And in addition to that, the configuration and the setup, we do not collect users' data at all.
Okay.
So yeah.
So yeah, I think this question was specifically about the amendment. I think we didn't come across an explicit emphasis of this. So I guess is the assumption that we can incorporate the privacy portion from the last amendment into this new amendment, the original contract into this amendment?
There you go. And that's why maybe it's not visible and evident there, because it's already existed and we don't restate it in the amendment. It's amendment to the original contract. The amendment is to the original contract, which has those policies in it. And we did not change those.
Okay, but I think it's worth emphasizing it in every single amendment, seeing as privacy and security concerns are a primary concern for folks. So I think I would love to kind of have further this discussion, because I think it is valuable to include in current amendment or future amendments, especially when we're talking about data security.
Okay, yeah, we'll make a note of that, and definitely if we can talk offline more about it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Advocates suggested auditing the data collection process by Link NYC. Are you open to such an audit?
Actually, we did conduct an audit. It just, the physical audit itself, or the audit itself, just finished up, and we have a draft report that's being reviewed internally right now for finalization. And part of that was to assess those areas.
Okay, and will the audit be made public or accessible?
As we are, yeah, it can, yes, it can be. Sorry, yes, it can be.
Okay. This one is a little bit more specific about terminology, and just again, I just want to make sure that I'm clear and that folks are 100% clear on. I think one of the issues that I learned is that oftentimes definitions are not made uniform, and so what you think means privacy on your end doesn't necessarily strike the same meaning for everyday New Yorkers. So according to the initial agreement with CityBridge, the franchise retains ownership rights in all data created in the course of providing the Wi-Fi services to the extent that such data doesn't include personally identifiable information. The franchise retains no ownership rights in personally identifiable information. However, the term PII is not defined in the agreement or its amendments. How do you define PII for the purpose of the most recent agreement?
Sure. And it's a good question. And what I'll do for this question is I'm going to kick it over to my general counsel, Tanya Richard. Tanya, are you available to help out?
Okay. Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. Yes, personally identifying information is defined as set forth in the city's identifying information law. And so that is the way we define it, and it's the standard to which we're held.
And I'm sorry, can you make that definition public? Can you share what that definition is?
Sure, it's in local law, 2 local laws, but absolutely.
I'm sorry, are you going to share it or no?
Okay, can you? Okay, you'd like me to do that right now?
Is it? Yeah, I think it would just be helpful so that we're all
Okay. Can
here
you?
for that.
All right.
Is
All
it
right.
lengthy? Is that why you don't want to share?
No. I'm just not set up to do it. So can you give me just a little bit?
Okay. Well, we can come back.
Just give me a little bit of time. Come back to me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. How much revenue do you expect to receive from ISPs or internet service providers, excuse me, that would participate in the 5G rollout and use Link NYC infrastructure?
Well, from our perspective, the city's perspective, we have the payment schedule that's built based on the rollout. So nothing specific to the service providers themselves. That's part of I guess the cost of CityBridge running it, and the revenue we get is pre-stated in the forecast in the agreement. So,
have any telecom companies agreed to install their 5G equipment in the Link NYC kiosks already?
yes, we have one. We have one
Okay.
set up already. We have the poll, none of the equipment is up yet. None of our equipment is up yet from a Link 5G perspective. The first one we'll see go up is June, but we do have somebody aligned.
On agreement.
Already. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you can't share who that is yet?
I'll be honest, I don't know if I can share, but I think I can.
Just curious.
CityBridge can answer that best. I'd probably kick that over to them.
We can get.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry.
That's okay. What is the best way to submit a complaint about Link NYC? And do you know how many complaints have been received through each means of submitting a complaint?
Yes. So the best way to do that is through 311. We can both do that when necessary. We do have stats on the number of complaints, and we do look at them regularly. Just at my fingertips, I don't have them right now, but I could take a note and get back to you.
So 311 is the best way for New Yorkers to file a complaint. But Link NYC, do they provide a pathway to submit a complaint?
Yeah. Yes. There's a help@link.nyc as another option.
Okay. And so you said you don't have the numbers on hand of how many have been filed through each pathway.
Not at my fingertips, but the information is available and we can get it to you rather quickly.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is about the actual kiosks. Is there any proposal to replace any of the existing or the old kiosks at this point?
At this current time, that's not in our plans, but it is a potential option.
Okay. Do you have a sense of if and when you get there, how you would dispose of the old kiosks?
I have not been through any reviews of the disposal process at this point, but you know, given the governance that I tend to bring to a program, especially one of this size, we would definitely validate that.
This was a little bit more specific about the existing sites of kiosks. How many Link kiosks are located near NYCC developments, near homeless shelters? Let's start there, if you can. And I'll let you define what near is, but I think we're all hoping for something reasonable within distance from a NYCC development.
Okay, that's a, I'll say just a pretty specific question about the nature of where these are. Again, that's another stat I wouldn't have off the top of my head, but certainly could go research it for you and get back to you without an issue.
Thank you. Irene, did you mention that someone has a hand?
Oh, yes. Yes, General Counsel Richards, I saw your hand up.
Yes. I wanted to come back to the question regarding PII.
Yes, thank you. Let me just pull my notes. Go for it.
All right, Madam Chair. So I'm looking at the agreement, and this is the original agreement, section 4.4.4, and it was unamended. Okay. The definition here is personally identifiable information means any information which personally identifies the person to whom such information pertains. Personally identifiable information includes name, address, phone number, fax number, email address, financial profiles, biometric information, medical profiles, social security number, and credit card information. Personally identifying information does not include information that is collected or stored in a manner that no longer reflects or references an individually identifiable user. And just to be clear, the agreement does say that the franchisee will not collect any such personally identifiable information concerning any user, except to the extent necessary for technical management of the Wi-Fi system. Franchisees shall not disclose personally identifiable information concerning any user and shall maintain at all times the best prevailing practices among public Wi-Fi networks. And then it goes on.
Thank you. So and I don't know if this is a question for you, but the technical management of the kiosk, would this be if someone files a complaint with 311? Is this the instance where PII would be accessed?
So complaints are, so when you say if somebody files a complaint, would we use personally identifiable information? It would not be available to us.
Yeah, I'm just asking about the definition of PII where it said it would be utilized or accessed for like technical maintenance. So I'm just curious. And again, I don't know if this is something that you can answer, but technical maintenance, how does that look?
So personally identifiable information is anonymized. Mm-hmm. At any point that it's when they say that information is used to for purpose of servicing the links, it would be anonymized.
Okay.
And yeah,
someone wants to connect their device to the link via Wi-Fi, for example, there may be steps they have to follow, or they provide an email address or something like that.
Mike is much better on the technical.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. And then Mr. McGrath, can you, and I'm so sorry, I know that I asked the question before, but you weren't able to answer the question about kiosks near public housing, correct?
Correct. We have the information. They're all laid out. They're on maps. I just would have to go back and quantify that for you. I just don't have that sort of totaled at my fingertips here.
Okay. I'm also raising this because I think that this is like a valid concern from New Yorkers. I know that you are still citing the remaining kiosks for this year and next year, but I think some consideration of proximity to public housing is vital when we're talking about the overall goal of kiosks. So obviously you'll be working that out with individual members and community boards, but would just like to make that plug. And then I'm assuming that you also don't have the number of kiosks that are near homeless shelters, correct?
Correct. And just one other thing to point out is that the devices themselves, as they currently sit, are in commercial districts and manufacturing districts, so forth. So the number that might be near a NYCC location, depending on where it's located and how it's classified, I'd have to just quantify that as I noted. But no, I just don't have that at my fingertips of kind of the cross sections of the data as you. So we can get back to you on that for sure.
Yeah, I just want to reemphasize. So I think the kiosks being in commercial districts, there's foot traffic to be expected there, so that makes sense. But I think I can tell you just in my district, the need for people accessing these kiosks are not necessarily the foot traffic on commercial districts. They are very much near public housing developments, near shelters, like Councilmember Holden raised, near bus shelters. So I think it's I would like to explore more of the rubrics at some point of where the sightings are being with respect to the populations that are in need of these kiosks.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Yeah, the impetus of the reason for the 90% being above 96th Street in the outer boroughs and digging deeper into the equity districts themselves that have been classified. That's the goal, right? We want to get this to the people who need it the most.
Thank you. If a community no longer wishes to have a kiosk in a certain neighborhood, what is the process they need to follow for the removal of that kiosk?
So I think it would start with a submission to 311 as a request. I can check with the team to see if there's anything more specific relative to communications. Brett, do you know offhand? Sorry.
Yeah, to the extent that there's a concern about a particular link kiosk, we would certainly take a look at it, make sure it was cited properly to begin with. And then if there's any extenuating circumstances, we'll take that into consideration upon an in-depth analysis. So yeah, we welcome any critiques or concerns of particular links.
Okay. How does Link NYC comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act? And do you have features to aid those who are hard of hearing, visually impaired, and other persons with disabilities?
Yes, the devices, the link units themselves are ADA compliant. That's how they were designed to both, from the height that you can access the controls, if you will, and then, just how it's built and how to get around the unit.
Do you work with business improvement districts or BIDs and local small businesses to give them the opportunity to advertise on links?
Yes, that is an avenue for them to get word out about themselves. Yep.
How can businesses do that? How can they work with the city to take advantage of Link NYC advertising? What is the process for them?
So if you want to advertise on the unit, I think the communication path for that is through City Bridge, right? Yeah, through City Bridge. And so that doesn't come through us directly. So I can get information for you, or City Bridge can provide it hereafter.
Okay, so according to do its internal presentation to our committee, there are 1,300 free advertising spots for small and local businesses. Small businesses, in order to apply for this free advertisement, the only thing they have to do is just reach out to City Bridge?
Correct. Yeah, and they'll help them get that up and running. That's correct.
Okay. The privacy policy mentions environmental sensors. Could you tell us more about the sensors present in the Link NYC kiosks and what kind of sensors they are?
Okay. We do not have environmental sensors in our units. We do? Oh, sorry.
They're in the privacy policy. What's mentioned in the privacy policy? So I'm just curious what they are and what kind of sensors they are.
Okay. This particular question I don't have the answer to off the top of my head. City Bridge will, for sure. And I'll take a note of it as well in case we need to be the ones who answer that after this is over.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No. Are kiosks equipped with Bluetooth beacons?
They have Bluetooth beacons in them, yes.
And are they activated?
Yeah, I believe so, but I will double check that for you.
Can you tell us why these Bluetooth beacons are in the kiosks?
So, no, I can't right now at this moment. I apologize. Chair Gutierrez. I'll take a note and get back to you.
Love to follow up with that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, let me just put a big old exclamation point here. Okay. Okay, what are the common obstacles in the process of installing or maintaining Link NYC kiosks?
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat the question?
Sure. What are the common obstacles in the process of installing or maintaining Link NYC kiosks?
Oh, okay. Some of the timelines and challenges we deal with are just the approval processes, permits, installation of power, things like that. Some of the physical items that we have to overcome to squeeze that time down and try to get them installed as quickly as possible. You can imagine, we have DOT for permitting, we have Con Ed for permitting and power and so forth, and that's where we find a lot of the challenges in terms of timelines. But we do have relationships with them, and we work closely with them to try to expedite where we can and to proceduralize some of those requests.
So it's a permit with DOT and permits with who else? I'm sorry.
Con Ed for power.
Con Ed for power.
Then you also have the running of fiber with folks like Verizon and so forth who own the conduit systems. And that's where a lot of the challenges come in from a timing perspective. And as noted, we work with them closely to try to shrink those times down to get these out there as quickly as possible, especially noting that we're trying to, get them to underserved areas.
Okay. Fantastic. I've got some follow-up questions actually about this with City Bridge. But as far as the installation, is DeWitt responsible for acquiring the permits?
No, we are not.
Okay. So as far as the installation, besides just the general approval, is it mostly who is it just City Bridge that is in charge of the permit approval and installation and so on and so forth?
Correct. Yeah, they own the process of requesting permits that they need and following through on them. Again, if it's something of an issue where timing becomes a problem, we try to help out and work with the agencies and/or third parties to help that along.
Okay, I have a couple more questions related to the design, and then I will pass it up to our moderator for additional questions. So Councilmember Holden raised the size of these new kiosks. Is the 32 feet tall just the space above ground, or is there any additional space underground that we should know about?
No, just that it's above ground. Everything that is there. The foundational items, of course, are underground, but that's not part of the structure itself.
Everything is above ground. Okay. And are the proposed structures expected to withstand environmental factors like a Hurricane Sandy, for example? This is a relatively enormous structure. I think you mentioned that it's about 2 stories. So what can we expect as far as resiliency with these new kiosks?
Yes, they should be resilient to many of those, all of those factors. This was not, when we talk about how it was designed and who it was designed with, wireless providers, equipment manufacturers, industry designers, things like that. All of those items were taken into consideration as we finalized the design, and it was reviewed by the PDC and their folks as well. So that's part of the review process as well within the city.
Thank you. And would the new kiosks have cameras as well?
Yes, they will have cameras.
And how many cameras will the new kiosks have?
It's two. Oh, sorry. It could be 3, but 2 or 3. I'll verify for you.
Okay, the existing kiosks have 3 cameras, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so the new ones will also have 3. Can you just explain what each camera is expected to do?
The cameras are installed essentially for the issues with vandalism. That's their only use case. If a unit is vandalized multiple times, they may choose to turn the cameras on to catch what's going on, and so that's the use case for the cameras that are installed on those units.
So each camera is for surveillance of the kiosk only?
Well, not necessarily surveillance, but it's used for purposes of deterring and avoiding vandalism, right? And so that's the use case and why they're installed. Other than that, they don't get used. Oh, I'm sorry. there is a case where if there is a valid subpoena, that they could be used.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Yep.
They could be used by the PD.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Law enforcement may have a valid subpoena for the use of that camera on that particular device. In that particular case, it would be turned on and used.
Okay. And how long are you holding on to camera footage?
7 days it's kept for, and it is encrypted.
7 days and encrypted. And can you explain what happens after the 7 days to the camera footage?
Oh yeah, it's pretty simple. It just gets deleted from the storage units that it's on.
Okay. My last question before handing it over to our moderator is how are the 311 complaints about Link NYC handled? And what is the communication between Link NYC and DOT related to those 311 complaints?
So the 311 complaints get registered. They come in through the franchise administration unit team, and then they are handled accordingly. So if depending on the type of issue that's brought to us, we'll route it to the proper agency or third party, if you will, City Bridge being one of them. If it's something about related to DOT, we relay it to them as well.
And do you believe that City Bridge is being diligent about resolving their 311 complaints in these instances?
Yes, definitely. We like I said, we have a team of people that track those complaints and follow up on them as well. And so I think the system's pretty good in that regard.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm going to pass it up to our moderator. Before moving on.
Thank you, Chair Gutierrez. And I see that Councilmember Holden has some questions. Councilmember Holden?
Starting time.
Thank you. Thank you so much again. Just a couple more. Just following up on the chair's questions about the 32 feet. Would that even fit under, I mean, that's pretty high, 3 stories. Would that even fit under an elevated train in most areas? Because my district and the chair's district, we have elevated trains. So, I mean, I think they're about 30 feet. So
okay.
Was that brought up at all?
I'll bring in Brett, Chairman, just to help because he's closer to that.
All right, there he is again. Okay.
Councilmember, how are you? So yeah, to answer your question, these would not be cited, very likely not be cited underneath elevated trains, just as you wouldn't see typical streetlights or our standard 30 to 32 foot streetlight under an elevated train. Usually they're shorter. So it's important to point out that the Link 5G structures are comparable to the height of a typical streetlight pole with a 5G or even a 4G antenna at the top of it. So yeah, very specifically to your question, it would probably not be cited.
So it couldn't be used in a lot of areas. So that's why I'm curious as to the 32 feet. Was that a magic number?
No, well, it wouldn't go directly underneath an elevated train, but to the extent that the sidewalk is set back, or that there's plenty of tall streetlight poles that are just adjacent to the train on either side. So it could go there, but directly under it, no.
All right, and just to follow up on that, as you know, New York City street furniture design is challenging, to say the least, and a mishmash many times. And you know, you have different street light designs, you have different furniture designs and so forth. But has there been a discussion on combining this? Like, I mean, in Philadelphia, I believe, or many other cities, combines the street lights with the kiosk. Has there been any thought on that?
Yeah, look, we have this is really another tool in the toolbox to deploy 5G. We have designs for streetlight poles. There's already attachments on buildings commonly found, obviously. And this Link 5G is yet another tool there. So what we sought to do was collaborate with all those stakeholders, from the franchisees to the carriers to industrial designers and equipment manufacturers, to come up with a unified design that incorporates all of the carriers' radio equipment and antennas inside one structure, so that everyone could go in the same structure. We don't see a hodgepodge of different telecom structures installed throughout the city. Wanted it to be uniform. I think we had something that looks really good, that's the smallest possible size structure that gets to provide coverage for 4 carriers plus the Wi-Fi.
No, but a street light, could that be put on to this?
Conceivably, it could. I mean, we could look at the the structural analysis to see if that would do anything to the structure, to see if it would cause any degradation of the stability. But yeah, we could certainly look at that. I just don't know that that's it would take up the space at the very top where the antennas are being housed. But we could take
Yeah, but other cities have done that where they combine street furniture because we have so many different designs. Like I said, in New York City, especially in more of the crowded areas, that it just becomes overwhelming. And these things are not small. They look like giant Q-tips, 32 feet high, and they're top heavy. So I'm just wondering, and I haven't seen a design. I've seen it in other cities, but I haven't seen a design in New York City's version with any street light attached to it. Try to kill two birds with one stone. You try to provide lighting.
That's
plus,
essentially. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's
Makes
exactly what our mobile telecommunications program seeks to do, right? We have existing infrastructure and we attach the 4G and 5G equipment onto it.
Right, could combine it. All right, just one other, Chair, if I may, just follow up, because I've gotten a bunch of calls from constituents. So let's talk about public education. There is a fear from some constituents that 5G is harmful when it's installed too close to residential. Is there any plan for a public education to address that? Because there are, people fear that that this is cancer causing and so forth. Because you look certainly you look on the internet and you'll find all these articles. Is there any public education plan on this?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we could certainly look to some sort of public campaign. But it's important to note that RF, radio emissions, is solely regulated by the federal government. The city has no authority, not only New York City, but every city and state across the country has no authority in this area. That said, we do include provisions in all of our telecommunications franchise agreements, not just with CityBridge, to ensure that the franchisee does comply with the maximum permissible levels of exposure related to these attachments. And our franchise agreement even goes a step further and offers periodic testing to ensure that they maintain that compliance. But we'll take a look at outreach campaigns.
Just one other thing I want to sneak in. The approval process you mentioned, there's DOT is given, they're the ultimate, they're the final say, right? That they make the final call on that?
Well, so OTI,
No, go ahead, you go.
yeah, so OTI has the authority in terms of where these things are cited, and it goes to that extensive citing criteria and review process. But to the extent that approval is given to the franchisee, they then have to go to the Department of Transportation, pull a typical construction permit. Yeah.
Okay, but so if they said, the DOT says no, then it's no, or can somebody override them, like you said?
Yeah, if they say no, it's typically for a reason that, we'll take a look at to see if maybe there's a capital construction project going on or a plan.
So where does the borough president, the council members, the community board fit into the process of approval?
Okay, so that's up front, council member. Once we work with CityBridge to identify potential locations in different areas, what we do is we take those maps and those the list of the intersections or blocks, and then we meet with the borough. We send that over and meet with the borough president and the council members in the districts, and even the bids if necessary, so they get a review of where they're going to be located. So in some cases they're fine with them, and in some cases they've asked us to move them around, and we're open to that discussion. It's why we send that around. And so, yeah, so it's definitely a collaborative effort that we try to do up front.
Right, but I mean, officially, if I say, because I've seen this, when I say to DOT, I don't like it here, or it wouldn't work here, because I know the area, I know my district, probably more than many, because I've been here all my life, 70 years. So I know the district, I know what would go, and many times I'm just disregarded. They just say, oh, no, we're going to do it anyway. And that's what I'm afraid of here, that if I get pushback from the community and the community board, that we're just not advisory, that we actually mean something.
Okay.
That we're, if this is not good here, that you guys would honor that, or at least DOT would.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the siting sits with us at OTI. So we will definitely take a note and get in touch with you on your area offline. I'd love to have a conversation with you about what's there already and what the plans are in the future. Absolutely. That's what we want to do.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, Chair, for the extra time, but
No worries.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for the,
all right.
you were the previous chair, so you have all the questions.
Oh,
I
okay.
appreciate
There
it.
was some privilege. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I just have some follow-up questions. I know that we want to pass it up, but I just have some follow-up questions. So just regarding the challenges that you face, you mentioned that there's, I think there's some issues with permits, for example, with DOT, Con Ed, who's the other one? Verizon, for example. So I bring that up because I do know that the CEO of City Bridge was essentially quoted as saying that there was a huge bureaucracy working with the city, and that it was a huge challenge. And it was basically the city's own incompetence for some of these challenges. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Is there more of the process that you can share with us that would drive the CEO of City Bridge, Nick Colvin, to make a statement about the city in this way?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I understand the question. I'll answer it this way. I got involved in this, back in the springtime, and I took over management oversight of the franchise administration unit back in September. My history, my experience is mostly as large program manager, program director. And so I like to bring a certain level of governance to these things as we move forward. And the first kind of couple of things we did with both the franchise administration unit and City Bridge was talk about that process in great detail, right? I wanted to go through everything and understand every hop along the way, because the idea is to identify if there is a delay in that process, right? To me, it's just math at this point, right? It's supposed to take I'm making this up, this number, 60 days to do something, and it's taking 70. Where's the choke point in the process? To call them issues, and to call it, city bureaucracy, I don't like to talk about it like that. It's a project, it's a process. Let's find the choke points in the process and let's address them. If it's a matter of lack of resources, or lack of prioritizations in certain buckets of areas, or maybe too many reviews, we find out in the process, right? We could find that out. To me, it is what it is. Let's address it. And that's the fact that we've taken, and we've worked closely with DOT to do that. We've worked closely with Con Ed to do that. We look at this very constructively and try to address the problems as they exist, if they exist. So I just like to answer it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just also want to go back to the camera in the kiosks question about turning it over to law enforcement if and when that happens, and just holding it on tip for 7 days. Can you, I'm generally just concerned about that. And so can you just confirm the use of the cameras and the footage being turned over to BD, is that exclusively for vandalism of kiosks, or are there other scenarios where footage would be turned over to law enforcement?
Right. So the vandalism piece is the actual use case for it. If there's a valid subpoena, as we noted before, we'll hand video over accordingly. But there is also a transparency report that is produced by City Bridge on a regular basis that gives yourselves and the public, myself, access to exactly what's going on in that space.
Meaning what? If I decide to look up a kiosk that's on the corner of a street, what kind of access, what information is available to me?
Yeah, the transparency report would make available things like data requests and responsive disclosures, and it's all available on their website. So any requests that would have come in for and related to that video would be registered on their website for folks to see.
Okay, and then are you able to share, as far as the camera footage, how is it being recorded? Essentially, like, where are the cameras located, and kind of what is being recorded?
Okay, so do you know the? Yeah, Brett, I'm going to have Brett answer that question for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
For us.
Sure. So there's 2 cameras located, one on each side of the ad panel screen, and then one up front, I believe, where the digital display is for sign language interpretation. That was what the intent there is. So there's 3 cameras in total, 2 on each side, one on each side, and 1 in the middle.
Do you have a sense of like how far the reach is of the camera? Like how far into the street is footage being recorded?
Yeah, I don't have that exact information, but City Bridge folks would be best suited to answer, I think.
Okay, and then as far as turning over footage to law enforcement, are there other examples of agencies where footage is being turned over to them or can be subpoenaed?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And then now that you're here, I wanted to know if you can answer my question about the Bluetooth beacons. Can you confirm if those exist in the kiosks and what the reason for them is?
So yeah, I think it's intended to provide location information, almost like a GPS kind of, to identify the location of the device.
Yeah, the franchise agreement prints, just, by the way, just one-way transmission of the beacon, right? So the Bluetooth signal is one way. Basically, a user's mobile application can make use of that information if they're asked to opt in to use a location service on that particular app. You're probably familiar with it, folks nowadays, right? You open an app and it says, hey, can we use your location services? You say yes, it might choose to use that Bluetooth connection, again, a one-way connection, to verify the location and provide more accurate data or information.
So they are activated in every kiosk?
Yes, yeah, and that's correct. Yes.
Can you just elaborate on the location of the connected device? Is that that's the device that the user is bringing to the kiosk to utilize? Or can you just confirm that?
Sure. Yes, that's correct. So everything from a cell phone to a tablet to a laptop. If you were to connect to the device and your application asks for you to opt in to use allow them to use location services, it may opt to use that beacon signal as part of that process.
Okay, and that's the only way that the beacon signal is utilized?
Correct. It's termed as a one-way signal, right? It's not a two-way transmission where it's trading, information, so to speak, back and forth, and it doesn't collect or store any data. It's just literally for the use of location services. And I know CityBridge can certainly speak a little more in detail on this, more so than I could, but that's the summary of it.
Okay, I mean, and I'll follow up with them, but do you have a sense of why they need the location of devices?
It's not so much about the location of it's more about the application or the user opting into it, right? So again, let's say you connect your cell phone and you're trying to get directions somewhere, and it says it may say, hey, can we use your location on your device? And your device may then turn around and say yes to that beacon and allow it to get its location services.
Okay. I mean, I will be following with CityBridge on these questions. And then my last question is just the locations of the cameras. You mentioned the 2 on the side and then 1 in the front. Are the new kiosks, will they have the cameras in the same exact location?
The intent is yes.
The intent is okay. Okay. I think I'm going to pass it off to our moderator. I have a lot more questions, but I'll pass it off to you, Irene, for now.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair Gutierrez, and thank you, everyone. Thank you for your testimony. And at this time, I do not see any questions from other council members. And I want to say that we have concluded administration testimony, and now we will turn to the public testimony. We will be calling panelists, and once your name is called to testify, our staff will unmute you and the surgeon at arm will set the timer that you might begin. Council members will have opportunities to ask questions after each testimony. And now I would like to welcome Nick Colvin from CityBridge and Victoria Lambeth from Zenfi to testify.
Thank you, council members. Thank you, council members. My name is Nick Colvin, and I am CEO of CityBridge, the consortium of companies that manage and maintain Link NYC. I appreciate the opportunity to update you on the program and its expansion to the new Link 5G kiosk. We launched Link NYC in 2015 with a firm belief that digital connectivity is a fundamental human right, absolutely necessary to fully participate and access opportunity in today's modern society. Since then, we've held true to this mission, providing free Wi-Fi to everyone in the 5 boroughs. I'm proud to say we've facilitated over 3 billion Wi-Fi sessions for more than 10 million subscribers. Link NYC Wi-Fi has truly become an essential resource for New Yorkers. It is also an engine of economic development, responsible for 447 million in labor income and 846 million in economic activity in the city since the program began. Furthermore, this critical program functions as a digital safety net for our communities. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, 30% of our free Wi-Fi users reported having no other means of accessing broadband. Find Help, a social services directed for jobs, housing, food, and other programs, was accessed more than 10,000 times per month, most frequently for food assistance. And our public messaging screens displayed vital and timely information regarding the city's response to COVID and how to stay safe. At the same time, Link NYC has become an essential platform for civic engagement, education, and content, including countless PSAs, public art exhibitions, local information, and free advertising for more than 1,300 local small businesses. The shift to working and schooling from home that was forced upon many New Yorkers during the pandemic will persist into the future. This change can be an enhancement to the quality of life, bringing distant opportunities within reach and giving individuals the flexibility to balance personal, professional, and academic life on their terms. But it is only available to those with sufficient access. The fast, equitable deployment of 5G is essential to ensuring all New Yorkers have access to the networks of the future. The city's Office of Technology and Innovation has planned a major expansion that will bring more service to more neighborhoods, prioritizing the outer boroughs, Manhattan above 96th Street, and communities that lack internet access. The new Link 5G design provides necessary infrastructure to support 5G and will enable faster in-home internet. The build out of fiber optic cable required to support this expansion will provide vital infrastructure to these areas. And every Link 5G will be connected directly to new fiber backbone that includes additional fiber that can be used by any broadband service provider to deliver better in-home internet. There is a profound need for better service in residential neighborhoods, and especially for people who don't have the luxury to always be connected. A recent third-party survey found overwhelming support for Link 5G in these areas, and we are working with our partners at OTI and the Public Design Commission to bring this program to these communities. Link 5G can help close the digital divide and make New York City's 5G deployment the most equitable of any large city in America. We look forward to continuing our partnership with the city and to expand Link's reach and bring 5G to all 5 boroughs. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Mr. Coven, for your testimony. Ms. Lambeth.
Hi, members of the City Council. My name is Victoria Lamberth, and I'm co-founder and executive at Zenfi Networks, the wireless infrastructure partner to CityBridge. I am testifying today in support of Link NYC. My partners and I started Zenfi in Chinatown in 2013, and we've since grown to be one of the largest providers of wireless infrastructure in the region. We build fiber networks, wireless sites, and data centers to support service providers, wireless carriers, and institutions. Our business model hinges on the sharing of physical assets by multiple carriers, which ultimately leads to better service and increased competition to users. As a startup, we won the contract to be the underlying fiber provider to the Link NYC. We won that contract because we invented a customized conduit and fiber assembly that's now being replicated nationally. This helps to conserve congested underground conduit routes, a necessity in New York. This innovative spirit lives on today and was a driving force behind Link 5G, which we also expect will be replicated nationally. New York should lead the country in tech innovation, and this program is key to that leadership. While the Link NYC program and the original Kiosk were visionary and innovative in 2014, the City of New York and we agree it's time for a second, more innovative phase. That phase is Link 5G. Link 5G will enable the deployment of thousands of new kiosks, all with the services New Yorkers know and love, plus the benefit of 5G. These structures will help bring New York into the next generation of wireless technology and in line with other major cities. This means better cell service, faster data speeds, and the potential for new and exciting internet capabilities. We worked with the major wireless carriers to design a structure that could accommodate their current and future technology needs. As a result, our design has been lab tested by the carrier equipment manufacturers, and 2 of the big 4 are planning to take part in initial deployments. In addition to deploying new kiosks, our $200 million investment will enable deployment of 1 million feet of new high-speed broadband fiber, primarily focused outside Manhattan and in equity districts identified by the city. This neutral fiber infrastructure can be tapped by multiple providers in line with the city's internet master plan. Over time, this can enable additional providers to deliver more competitive broadband services to homes and institutions like libraries and NYCHA campuses. We're very proud to be laying this next generation of fiber and supporting the installation of Link kiosks, which we believe will help address our city's digital equity goals. The success of this project in building out 5G in New York is critical to us. We are the only locally owned and operated wireless infrastructure provider in New York City. Our team lives and works in the tri-state area, and we take pride in this project and our role in promoting digital equity. We believe that community partnership is critical to our success, and our work has a direct and meaningful impact on our neighbors, friends, and families. I believe that Link 5G is a success story for our city. It's a story of innovation and progress. It's a story I'm incredibly proud to be a part of, and I hope you are too. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lambeth and Mr. Colvin, for your testimonies. And now turning it over to Chair Gutierrez for questions.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify so that I can refer to the duration of the hearing. Are you all comfortable with me referring to you by your first names?
Yes, that's fine.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, fantastic. This question is for Nick at City Bridge. You mentioned at the top of your testimony that you are all, City Bridge is a consortium of several companies. Can you share what those companies are?
Sure. So the consortium is Intersection, who's my employer, they're the advertising partner. There's Zenfi, who is represented by Victoria here, and they're our network services partner. And then Comark, rather, who's a financial investor. They're not an operating member.
Okay. Of these, I believe 4 partners you mentioned, do they have access to the data collected by Link NYC?
No. To the extent that there's data collected and there really is none, they do not have access.
Okay, and then what about the? I'm gonna ask this later again, but just the piece about the Bluetooth beacons and when the location is asked for, do they have access to that information?
No, and neither would City Bridge. The way the beacons work is there's no data transferred to the beacons or to City Bridge if something were to use them. And I think it's important to understand that we had planned to use them for our own mobile apps. We don't have any released. There was one, I think that was a demo, but they're not actually actively in use. So, and if they were, there would be no data transferred to us. It's only used by the user's device to know where it is. It doesn't send any data to City Bridge.
So, and I'm sorry, just to confirm that you said the beacons are not in use, or they are in use?
They're active, but they are not actively being used by any applications.
Okay. Thank you. What was your annual revenue from ads in 2018, 2019, and 2020?
Not sure if I have this exactly off of the top of my head, but I will say in 2019, it was, I believe it was approximately 60 to $70 million in that range. 2020 was significantly lower than that. And the prior year was lower, but not substantially lower. So 2020 being the pandemic year, our revenues dropped more than 50%. So that's data the city has, and we can share that with you.
Mm-hmm. And then I believe I asked this before, I just want to confirm, do you have an alternative stream of revenue?
So with the renegotiation or the restructuring of the agreement, there is the opportunity in the future to lease space on the Link 5G kiosks to carriers, and this is through our partner Zenfi, and that would be an additional revenue stream. So that's not one that's been activated yet, as there are no kiosks deployed, but will be in the future.
Okay. Just back to my previous question about the revenue. I know you're saying, and I know that we can access it, but you said in 2019, it was around 60-70 million, and then 2020 it dropped significantly. However, in 2018, those are the numbers that you don't have, but that was also the year that City Bridge stopped paying the city. Can you speak to, even if you don't have the exact numbers,
sure,
what that decision was?
So I wasn't, just to be clear, I was not running the program at that time, but based on my understanding and review of the financials back then, essentially there was not sufficient revenue coming in to pay for the operation of the system, which is substantial, and also the deployments that were going on at that time, as well as paying the minimum annual guarantee to the city. So there was an agreement entered into with the city to forbear on the payments and hold those in abeyance while the contract was renegotiated.
Okay. I'm going to just ask some of the questions that I asked to Mr. McGrath earlier. I just want to confirm. So this one is related to the current Link kiosks. They have three cameras, as he confirmed. Are the new 5G kiosks, will they also have the same amount of cameras? And is there any reason that you can speak to why the cameras are on the kiosks?
Sure. So the Link 5G kiosk will have either one or potentially three cameras, and that is dependent on whether there are ad displays. So the ad display design is currently the same as the existing kiosk. There is a camera above the ad display, again, for monitoring for vandalism. And there is a camera in the tablet above the human interface that is used only for video services, video relay services, which is to provide telecommunications to the deaf and hard of hearing.
Okay, and then who will have access to this footage?
To the extent the cameras are on, and generally speaking, they are not turned on unless there's a reason to investigate vandalism. Only City Bridge would have access, and only the most senior engineers. There's not general access. It's automatically stored in an encrypted file share. As Mr. McGrath mentioned, if there's a valid subpoena that we receive for footage, if there happens to be footage available, which there typically is not, as you can see in our transparency reports, that would be shared with whatever law enforcement agency issued that subpoena. But if you look at our transparency reports, you can see that this very rarely happens. And in fact, last year, there were 0 instances of sharing video footage, and the prior year, there were only 3.
Can you share what are some examples of law enforcement agencies that can subpoena for footage?
Obviously, the NYPD, district attorney's offices. I'm not personally familiar with every possible law enforcement agency that might have the ability to obtain a subpoena from the court.
Can ICE provide a subpoena for footage information?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay.
That's more of a legal question.
Okay, I'd love to follow up just to.
It's just to be clear, this is not, law enforcement can't just choose to ask us. They have to get a valid legal order via subpoena. So that's what's required. We obviously don't have any say over who that is.
No, I understand. I think it would just be helpful to understand examples of, I know you said that they are very limited, but it would be helpful to understand examples of when these subpoenas have been made and, when City Bridge.
Well, you can see, so we report on the agencies that have asked, or maybe only those that have received data. That's also in our transparency reports on our website.
Thank you. My following question is about the footage that you're able to hold on to, or that you do hold on to for 7 days. You said it's encrypted. Where is it stored for those 7 days?
It's stored in a private file location on a private network that is encrypted, and it's in an area that is not accessible to people generally. It's a lockbox essentially, and only our most senior engineer has the key to get into that lockbox, or has the ability to access that key.
Thank you. How many sensors does a Link NYC kiosk have?
Off the top of my head, I can't say, but I can say with certainty that there is a small number of sensors primarily related to temperature and ambient light, and these are used to monitor the health of the structure. So if we detect an overtemp condition, say on a computer, we might turn that computer off automatically. And the ambient light sensor is used to adjust the brightness of the displays so that if it is nighttime and dim around, they dim so as not to disturb people around them and also to conserve energy.
Okay, so you can't confirm how many sensors are on each of these kiosks?
I could get back to you with more precise data on there, but like I said, they're, as far as I know, entirely temperature and ambient light sensor. There may be a moisture sensor or something as well to check for water penetration. But again, these are only in place to protect the structures and monitor them for adverse conditions that need to be addressed by repair or something like that.
And each kiosk would have the same amount of sensors?
That's correct.
Okay. Will the new kiosks have sensors?
They will similarly have thermal sensors, as well as I believe, and I again would have to check with engineering on all of the sensors internal to the structure to monitor its health and well-being. But that again is what the sensors would be used for, is to monitor the health and well-being of the structure as well as the ambient light for the automated dimming of the displays.
Okay. And in these instances where the sensors are being triggered, is this data that's collected beyond the need to like maintain that kiosk?
No.
Okay. Have you ever considered providing users with a Link NYC mobile application?
We have considered that.
Yeah. What is the idea that would be the use of this?
The idea would be, I mean, there's two main use cases. So one is to find a link. So where can I get access? And the other is to provide an easier way to gain encrypted access to the network. So I may not be familiar, there are two Wi-Fi networks. There is what's called the public network, which is an open Wi-Fi network like you might find in a hotel or something. It's an unencrypted Wi-Fi connection. And then there is what's called the private network, which is an encrypted connection. And getting access to that private network, while we try to make it as easy as possible, while still being secure, it's not the easiest onboarding process for your typical, maybe not very technically savvy user. So the most useful thing the application could do would make it easier to get a credential to join that private network.
And what are so right now in a kiosk, a user has access to the public and the private network?
That's correct, yeah.
And what are the incentives to utilize one over the other?
I think it really is, I mean, it's up to a personal user's preference. Some people would rather access the public network, but really it's about ease of joining the network. On the public network, it is just very easy. I mean, I think we all have experience going onto hotel Wi-Fi. You don't need a password to join the network because it's not encrypted. You just need to agree to terms and conditions, and then you're allowed to use it. On the private network, we need to somehow communicate to you a password to encrypt your connection uniquely. And that's where you get into some technical challenges based on a user's capability. So you can join that private network. You can download a key from our website if you want to access it. And we encourage people to, but most people choose to use the public Wi-Fi.
So there are less challenges to utilizing the public network. They don't have to. What is the information that is asked for the private network?
It's the same email address.
So you need an email address to utilize both public and private?
We ask for an email address when you sign up, yes. And we don't validate that address, but we do ask for it so that if there are updates to our terms and conditions or our privacy policy, we can notify you. And we occasionally email a survey to ask about service quality.
Okay. So the scenario could be, and I think is a very realistic scenario of the instance where someone wants to utilize the kiosk to access internet, but doesn't have an email, right? How would someone be able to utilize either both the public or the private, whether public is easier and faster? How can someone access it if they don't have an email?
I think it's, well, so I guess one option would be to put a fake email in. The other option would be to contact our support desk, who could facilitate getting you a key, which has an anonymous email address. In fact, all of them do. And we could try to walk you through installing that key to access the private network.
Okay, and so if someone were to create a fake email, though, doesn't something need to be accessed? Are you all emailing them something that they need to access to be able to use the kiosk?
We do, but we don't use that as a gateway to allow you access. You get access provided you have entered something that looks like a valid email address. So we don't attach your email to your device in any way, shape, or form. It's used only to confirm that someone with this email address has agreed to the terms of service, and we can contact them again in case there are any updates to that. So you are intended to enter a real email address. Let me be clear about that, but we don't tie it to a user or their device in any way.
Okay. And it's, again, their email is just to make sure that they have the privacy policy?
Correct.
Okay. How often do you update your privacy policy?
Privacy policy has to be approved by the city, and it was last updated, I believe, in 2017.
The last time it was updated was 2017?
I believe so.
And so I understood from GUID that the policy will stay the same Is that correct?
They have to approve it. So if that's what they're saying, I'll go with what they're saying.
Okay. I'm just going to read you a piece from the privacy policy. By registering with us or otherwise affirmatively indicating your consent, you consent to the practices described in this privacy policy. If for any reason you do not consent to these practices, please do not use the services. This policy does not provide people with choices. Would you consider changing the policy to provide users with opt-in, opt-out options?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So my question is similar to my question about having email or not having email. It's like I'm concerned about people having access to it. And so if people opt out of the privacy policy, then they cannot utilize the kiosk, is what I'm interpreting from the privacy policy. There are instances where if someone does not agree or consent, they can still utilize, they can continue to use the website or continue to have access. My question to you is if you if there is a consideration to change that portion of the policy that would allow users to opt in or opt out of consenting to the privacy policy while allowing them to utilize the kiosk.
I'm not sure I'm in a position to answer that question, as the city would have to approve that change to the privacy policy, and the privacy policy is intended to protect the residents of New York. So I can't really answer that, I don't think.
Okay. According to the privacy policy, City Bridge may combine technical information or non-personally identifiable information about use of the services with similar information about other users in an anonymized manner. What is the goal of such a process?
Not having written the privacy policy, I don't know if I can speak to intent per se, but I can say that we don't engage in that practice at this time, generally speaking, in terms of combining personally identifiable information with non-personally identifiable information. We may look at usage patterns, like the number of users on a kiosk to understand if the network's healthy, things like that. So in that way, data is combined, but it's not any personal information.
Okay. And do you believe it's possible to identify people by combining technical information with other information?
Are you asking me in the abstract or about our network particularly?
I mean, about the network particularly.
No, I don't believe so, based on how we're operating the network.
Okay. Do you collect the information? So if someone is accessing a kiosk, they have to enter their valid email or made up email. Are you collecting that information?
On the Wi-Fi or on the kiosk tablet itself?
On the Wi-Fi.
So we store the email, again, only for the purposes of communicating with the end user. Meaning like policy updates, if there were any, as well as, again, we email occasionally customer service, essentially like how's it working for you type emails, surveys.
So, okay. All right, so according to your privacy policy, excuse me, City Bridge does not collect information about the precise location. However, City Bridge knows where it provides Wi-Fi services. So when a user uses the services, City Bridge can determine your general location. So the question is, what is the difference between precise location and general location? And how long do you store this data for?
Well, so first, to be clear, because we don't combine the user data with the technical information, we actually can't say that a person is there. But any device that connects to a network has to communicate with that network. So if you're within a range of the Wi-Fi, then for the duration of your connection, in theory, there is a connection there, and there is an ability to know where a given hardware address generally is, because it has to be within range of a Wi-Fi access point. So you cannot, just like you couldn't make a phone call from your home without being there, you can't use a kiosk without being connected to it. So that's, it's within range of the Wi-Fi. In terms of precise location, I think I don't know if there's a definition of precise location. But we would only know that you're within some hundreds of feet of a kiosk, not you, but your device is within some hundreds of feet of a kiosk.
And do you store this information in those instances?
No.
No. Okay. Oh, okay. According to your privacy policy, again, quote, we may offer additional paid products and services. Can you explain what paid products and services those are and what you're planning to provide?
We don't currently have plans to provide other paid products or services, other than obviously the access to the kiosk for the carriers.
Okay, but it's in the privacy policy. Is it in there for some future use?
I mean, you could imagine use cases, and again, I wasn't here for that. I didn't negotiate that privacy policy, but you could imagine uses such as maybe paying parking tickets or buying theater tickets on a tablet or something like that. But none of that has ever been done, and we're not currently planning to do that. I mean, certainly there's a tablet there. In theory, you could offer other services on it. But again, there's no current plans to do that.
I understand. I don't know if you can speak to this, but when the privacy policy was drafted, do you know if there was a consultation with the New York City privacy officer?
I do not know that off the top of my head. I could probably look into it, and I'm sure our friends at OTI could as well. I know we consulted with NYCLU. And I believe there was another privacy foundation whose name is escaping me. But yes, we have consulted with other privacy experts, and I know the city did as well.
Okay. So this is another quote from the privacy policy. Information we collect from you with information collected by, I'm sorry, sometimes we supplement and I can't pronounce that word. Anonymized. Irene, can you help me? I have no idea how to pronounce this word.
Yeah, absolutely, Chair. So sometimes we supplement anonymized technical information we collect from you with information collected by third parties. Third parties might include advertising partners or other providers that help us understand our users. We will not share any information that is not anonymized with any third parties for their own use. So I just read the quote from the privacy policy.
Thank you so much, Irene. Would you can define the term sometimes and supplement from the portion of the privacy policy?
I'm not going to try to give you a dictionary definition of words here. I'm just going to tell you that we don't do that. Like, there is no supplementing of data, there's no combining of data, and there's no sharing of data.
That's fine. You don't have to give me a dictionary definition. I think it's in the policy, so there's an intention behind each of these words, and so we just want to clarify what is, if and when, the use of sometimes versus all the time, and then the use of supplement, the implication of the word supplement in the privacy policy.
Yeah, again, I'm sorry, I did not draft the policy, so I can't speak to the intent there. I can just speak to what we do today.
So, and then you said you do not share information collected with third parties?
No. Well, let me be really clear, I guess. Beyond what's necessary to provide services, for example, someone emails us to ask a question that goes to a ticketing system that's a third-party software provider, but they're only allowed to use that for the purposes of providing us with the service. So there's no data about network usage shared with anyone for their own reasons or for any advertising purposes.
Okay. My next question is about the targeted advertisements, excuse me. Can you share if they are targeted? And if they are, who do you target and how do you identify those users?
Advertisements are not targeted to any individuals.
So how are they displayed? Like, what is the process for, like, where you have them displayed and stuff, and what is it, that process?
So in out of home, when you're selling advertisements, out of home being anywhere, like on the street, billboards, payphones, the client generally chooses a location based on where that screen is in the world, right? So If it's on Madison Avenue, the customer knows that there are lots of high-end retail locations on Madison Avenue, and that's where they want to be. They want to be near these high-end retail locations. So that's the basis for how these advertisements are sold, is the location of the screen itself.
Okay, and that's something that that City Bridge does, or is that something that the advertising partner provides to you?
Intersections are our advertising partner, and they sell Link NYC alongside all of its other out-of-home portfolio, so screens and billboards and things like that across the country. And their clients choose what screens they want their ads to play on, and that's where they play.
Okay. According to your privacy policy, the services may use cookies and similar technologies to support the functionality of the services. What are the similar technologies that you are referring to?
I'm sorry, again, I'm not sure what the intent was there, but we actually don't even use cookies. And this would only apply to our website, not to the network, the Wi-Fi network. So this would only be relevant to our City Bridge or Link NYC webpage. And again, we don't even use cookies there today.
Okay. My next question is, how many tourists are using Link NYC, and how many of them do you think are from the EU?
I don't know that off the top of my head. Based on prior user surveys that we have done, historically pre-pandemic, typically about half of the users at any given time were tourists. During the pandemic, we saw that usage fall away as there were basically no tourists here, and it's starting to return now. I think we asked only if you were from the States or not, so in the survey. So I'm not sure if I can tell you even later how many were from the EU. But I can say about 50% at any given time were tourists.
Do you know if oh, so you don't know based on your survey? So let me skip this question, and I'm sorry. How many websites are owned and operated by City Bridge?
Only link.nyc.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna just ask some questions about pertaining to cybersecurity. Who is currently responsible for cybersecurity for the Link NYC networks?
In my organization, my head of engineering would be responsible, but that is generally, on the Wi-Fi network, our service partners are accountable or responsible, I should say, for the implementation of cybersecurity and all the security measures on the network itself. So, we partner with vendors such as Zenfi to provide the Wi-Fi services. So while the accountability goes to my head of engineering, the parties responsible for it are our partners.
Okay. If Link NYC is compromised, would the intruder readily have access to sensitive information?
No.
And who, in your opinion, would be liable? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just to be clear about that. So the Wi-Fi network is completely separate from any of the internal collection systems, meaning, and really we're talking about email addresses here. So there's no ability to go from the Wi-Fi, which is what an attacker would have access to other systems that are used to manage the kiosks or other information.
And if there is some kind of a data breach, who, in your opinion, would be liable?
I'd have to ask you which data. I guess
any personal information. I know, again, this is like only in a scenario where it is compromised. So any user's personal information, email, or just like, websites that they may have visited while utilizing the Wi-Fi network, for example, who, in your opinion, do you think would be should be held liable or held responsible in these instances?
Well, speaking of email and in terms of our collection of email addresses, we would be, because we are the ones that hold that. When users sign on, that goes directly to our system and not anyone else, and that goes into an encrypted database, and the emails are themselves encrypted within that database, and we protect them very carefully. So I'm confident that there's a very low probability anyone would want to access those. If they did, that would be our responsibility. In terms of other data breaches, I think it would depend on the system. Whoever the vendor is that manages that would be liable for that data breach. But to be clear, there is no monitoring of web traffic or access by our users, so there would be no sort of leak of their usage information.
Is there a scenario where you think the city would be liable for any kind of data breach or technical glitch?
Not that I am aware of, though I am not a lawyer. So I'm going to reserve the right to say I might be wrong there, but I'm not that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. What is the average upload and download speed of Link NYC Kiosk currently?
So the maximum possible is 1 gigabit per second. That's obviously shared, and that's up and down bidirectional. There's a dedicated fiber run to each kiosk. Again, theoretically maximum any user could get is a gig up and down. Generally speaking, a user's device cannot actually support that speed. So typically even the fastest iPhones can maybe get 500 or 600 megabits per second in terms of what they're capable of utilizing. And I have seen that in the streets. I do speed tests regularly. More typically, you're going to see a few hundred megabits per second because you're sharing the connection with several other people at the same time.
Will the new 5G kiosks have the same speed, or will that change?
Current plans are for them to be the same speed. I can't say that that won't go up in the future, but the current plan is the same speed. Like I said, most consumer devices today can't even utilize the gigabit that we're offering today. So we're still ahead of the curve in terms of what devices people own. Right now the plan is for the same quality of service to be provided at the Link 5G.
I do want to say that I believe, and this is something we can talk about collectively, I do want to say that I think the number of 311 complaints, I don't know if I know that I asked Mr. McGrath these questions, but I don't know how often you're in tune with some of these 301 complaints, but I do know that one of the chief complaints was speed. So would love to hear if there are instances and what these instances are when you or your team are reviewing these 311 complaints, because I think if I remember correctly, this was one of the top complaints was the speed of the kiosks. The internet browsing capabilities on kiosks were removed a couple of years ago due to several concerns. Will the new kiosks have browsing capabilities? And if yes, will there be restrictions on the content?
The new kiosk will have exactly the same functionality as the current kiosk when it comes to Link NYC services. So the same human interface with the same services offered.
So they won't be able to browse. They're utilizing a separate device.
I'm sorry, utilizing a separate device?
Well, they'd have to log into the Wi-Fi. They can't browse on the actual kiosk.
That's correct.
Yeah. And is that specific to the contract with the city? Like, is the reason for that because that is a specific request by the city?
I'm not sure of the answer off the top of my head. It's certainly not required by our contract to provide internet or like general web browsing on the tablet. So we provide all of the services required in the contract and more in the case of the video relay services and find help and some of those things that we provide access to. So I know it's not required that we provide it. Whether there is an agreement to not provide it, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. Who can you share about the 5G kiosks? Can you share a little bit information about who will be installing them, and if you've already hired a vendor? Excuse me.
So you mean the civil contractors that might be doing the installation?
Yes.
So I know who those are, obviously. I'm not sure if I'm permitted to say who they are exactly, but they are New York City based contractors who do a lot of work in the streets for us and have since the beginning of the program and for many, many other entities in New York City. I'm certainly happy to follow up offline. I'm just not certain of all the provisions in various contracts.
Share that.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you be able to share if this vendor or these vendors utilize labor unions and laborers to fulfill their staff?
I know that I believe all of them do, but I know several of them definitely provide union labor. And in fact, I believe we have a union representative who's maybe here to testify today if they haven't run out of time.
Okay, fantastic. Where are the kiosks made?
I'd say they come from all over the place.
Are they made in the US?
Yes. Well, I mean, to be clear, like everything, like some of the computer components are going to come from overseas because that's where they're made. So there will be components that come from all over, but they're certainly all put together here.
Okay. Got a couple more questions. Does City Bridge inspect, so specific to these 5G kiosks and equipment, does City Bridge inspect them for any reason? Or once the contract with the vendor is finalized, do they just have free reign to go ahead and install? Is there any instance where City Bridge is inspecting them, reviewing them before installation?
So there is an acceptance criteria and acceptance testing that's done of kiosks when they're received. It's not perhaps every single kiosk because there's when we're fully ramped up in deployment, there's a large volume, so it wouldn't be every single one that's inspected, but we do inspect them to ensure as they come in, they are in good working order, and then they are inspected once they are installed to ensure that the installation has been done correctly and to the appropriate standards, and that the device has been installed correctly and is functioning completely before it's considered installed and sort of ready to go. And then after installation, every site is visited at least once per week for visual cleaning and inspection and maintenance activities.
Thank you. And then my last question for you is, what revenue do you expect to receive from advertisements and the leasing of the 5G space of the new kiosks?
So, I mean, I hesitate to share projections far in the future. We do expect there to be modest growth every year. So, sort of forgetting about 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic, we would expect, single digit growth to revenue, maybe low double digit on the advertising side through the course of the program. And then on the 5G and the cellular side, that's not expected to be a large revenue stream relative to the advertising, but as Mr. McGrath said, it is a consistent and long-term revenue stream that can be used to fund the deployment and justify that investment. Because unlike advertising, those contracts typically run for 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. My next question is for Victoria over at Zenfi. I'm hoping that you can answer this. It's specific to let me just find my place again. It's specific to the agreement. Can you share a little bit more detail about the agreement between City Bridge and Zenfi? For how long is the agreement good for? And if there's any pertinent information that we can learn from you today about it. Oh, she has to unmute.
Give me one moment. I'll try to unmute you.
I think I tried to do it.
Is that working now? Great, thank you. Sure, I mean, I'm happy to answer any specific questions, but generally speaking, the relationship between City Bridge and Zenfi, as I mentioned, we are responsible for the deployment of the fiber associated with the kiosks as they roll out, and responsible for the management and leasing of any space as it relates to 5G equipment with City Bridge. Our contract runs in parallel with the franchise agreement, and our requirements are to maintain all of the provisions that are within the franchise with City Bridge and to be in lockstep with them.
Thank you. And so based on what Mr. McGrath shared also, that the incentive is to be able to provide this 5G network, and that is, I think, core to the work that you are all doing. But I think what Nick just shared on as far as the speed, of the current kiosk versus 5G, it sounds like the speed will be the same. Is that correct? Did I understand that, Nick, correct?
The speed of the Wi-Fi, correct, is at least initially going to be the same.
Initially. So can I understand what will be the benefit then of the 5G kiosk if the speed will be the same?
Is that, sorry, just to be clear, is that question for me? Would you like?
Yeah, that
Sure.
question is to you. I just needed to make sure I heard what I heard from Nick. Yeah.
Great. So first of all, I just kind of to reiterate our general role and our general business is we build underlying physical infrastructure in support of others providing value-added services, right? So one of the key components of Link NYC and Link 5G as we move forward is this underlying fiber infrastructure that's pervasive throughout the streets of New York and to the kiosks themselves. So every kiosk receives dedicated new neutral fiber infrastructure to it. That fiber infrastructure is effectively limitless in terms of the capacity it can handle. It's only limited by the equipment that's on the end. And today we use, the up-to-date Wi-Fi technology. As that technology evolves, we'll continue to update that technology. And as Nick said, the speeds that users typically experience are typically limited by the devices themselves, not the access point that's transmitting that device. So I just kind of want to hammer home that point. In terms of the benefit of Link 5G specifically, New York City has a challenge right now deploying 5G infrastructure. And these new Link 5G kiosks are meant to be a piece of the puzzle to help solve that infrastructure challenge. And just from a high level, 5G requires a lot more equipment deployed closer to the user because it leverages high frequencies that go short distance but deliver a ton of capacity. And so in order to get that capacity in a place like New York City, you need physical locations to place this equipment. Today, those locations have been limited to existing street poles, which have their own challenges because obviously that infrastructure is aging and wasn't initially intended to be a solution for this 21st century technology that we have out here, whereas the Link 5Gs were built specifically to handle this technology and to handle future technology upgrades.
So adding 5G will not necessarily improve services for New Yorkers in terms of free internet, but it'll provide another stream of revenue for City Bridge?
I would say that the free internet that comes from the Wi-Fi network obviously is a benefit to anyone with a device, and as you noted, with an email address. And the 5G network, the improvements that we're going to see as a city come from the ability for us to expand overall mobile network opportunities for everyone across the city. And the benefit of a structure like Link 5G is unlike some of the pole top deployments that can only handle one carrier or maybe two carriers at most. The Link 5G structure was intended to hold all carriers. And so that should translate into more choice for New Yorkers and better service as it relates to the cellular network. But it's an improvement of the cellular network across the city.
And this is maybe for the both of you. I'm just concerned that the user, like the priority of accessibility for the user, the priority of access for the user is non-existent. It seems to me that the priority seems to be more about investing in the infrastructure that doesn't really provide a massive upgrade in like access for folks. I think, at the top of the call, we did talk about the site locations and where they are. I think that is like a gesture in the right direction, but I'm concerned about like New York and the average New Yorker is like using this device and whether that experience will feel different, whether it will feel better and faster. Where I think a lot of the benefit is happening on the back end, and a lot of the benefit is happening, for example, for City Bridge to be able to comply with the amendment. So I'm concerned about how that experience will change and how it will translate to the average New Yorker trying to access Wi-Fi or trying to utilize one of these kiosks.
I can
So,
make one comment on that and then, hand back to
I can,
Nick.
yeah.
But just as it relates to this next phase of the program and how we look at siting, one of the benefits is when you're looking to site wireless Wi-Fi radios across the city, they work pretty similar to how we would site a 5G radio, so to speak. So we're looking to optimize where we're putting these for the user experience themselves. And so that means that these structures are going to be deployed in a manner where the free Wi-Fi user experience is as seamless as possible, and in a manner that is provides the most coverage to a given area, because that same distribution of the Wi-Fi network is similar to how we would build a mobile network. So just to kind of, I guess, ease some of those concerns, those two items are aligned from a business perspective, along with deployment of the free Wi-Fi. Nick, I'll hand it back to you for further
Sure.
comment.
And I think that, I mean, that's a really great point, Victoria, regarding the optimizing siting for cellular coverage also is optimizing for Wi-Fi coverage and wireless service in that regard. But it's true that you hear us talking about our how these things are funded, because the city isn't paying for this and someone has to. So there has to be a revenue stream. That revenue stream needs to exist and be enough to sustain the program to provide the free services. So I don't want to downplay that or sort of skirt that issue. It is important that there be a way to fund the program. There's hundreds of millions of dollars that Zenfi is putting in. We have already, the City Bridge investors have already deployed hundreds of millions of dollars in the existing network, and something needs to sustain that. That said, in these areas that we've committed to going to, the real problem, one of the real problems and why there isn't access is there is a lack of underlying infrastructure. And it costs a lot of money to deploy that underlying infrastructure. There's a lack of fiber, and there's a real capacity constraint on the wireless carriers networks in these areas. You see that in the Internet Master Plan. We've done our own surveys, and people really complain of having poor quality of service in their homes. And so, it's important we don't downplay the benefit of bringing this additional infrastructure to these communities. While of course there are some people who can't afford a mobile data plan, perhaps they're going to benefit from the free Wi-Fi, but the vast majority of people are already paying for service, and they're getting a poorer quality of service than they might if they actually had a decent infrastructure deployed around them.
Thank you. I think I understand what you both are saying. I think in the long run of how we think about people's access to internet, and I think that this is like for everybody, all the panelists, the concern continues to be kind of like where the kiosks currently are. A lot of these folks already have access to internet service providers. And so I think in conclusion, what I would like to see would just be a much more detailed conversation about the strategy around where these new kiosks will go, the remaining kiosks, the 5G towers will go. Because I think if the goal really is to bridge that divide, we really have to do that in earnest, and not necessarily where it's easiest, but where it's the most needed. And so I would love to continue this conversation with the rollout of the remaining kiosks in the outer boroughs. And I look forward to that conversation. I'm gonna pass it off to our moderator now, so we can take the rest of the panelists' comments.
Thank you, Chair Gutierrez. And now we're going to hear our next panelists. And our next panelists will be Ms. Davis and Lori Hannon from Center for Hearing and Communications. And I just want to mention that we might need interpreters for the testimonies. Ms. Davis, are you ready to begin?
Yes, hello. My name is Marcelette Davis. I'm here in Manhattan. Thank you for inviting me to be here. After listening this morning, I realize that many people here are new. And it seems that the committee has not received or transitioned from the last team's work on this technology. It seems that many people have not received the proper information necessary from the prior team from us, from the deaf community. And since January 1st, no one has reached out to us to see what's worked and what has not. Talking about the policies, the internet, the camera that are set up, and all of these things were discussed before 2022. Right now, the kiosks that are already installed, there isn't enough transmission with New York City with the deaf or the disabled people, or those who are impoverished who are using the kiosks. I do agree with some of what has been discussed about how technology, speed, is to be improved, but the technology itself and the transition really upsets me, because our work with Link NYC had been done for over 10 years. And it seems that we're discussing things that have already been discussed, and I feel like we're back at square one. I'm wondering why that is. So I'm hoping that people from this committee will contact us in the deaf community and deaf organizations, because those communities are out on the street trying to utilize the kiosks. Regarding the policy that's already been updated back in 2020 for the next 3 years. So where is that policy? What happened to it? I think New York City has already told us they're willing to work together with different organizations to find their way to keep things up running by itself. Meaning we're responsible to find people to work on the kiosk to maintain them. So that they can serve our New York City community at large. Including some, it will include some costs. Even though half of the people are tourists that are using the kiosks. In regard to the deaf community, we're not able to converse through 311. That's why we have ASL Direct that's founded by ASL Direct has helped Link NYC to serve the broader community. And yes, technology always will be complicated, But again, all of us together can work together to make sure that technology is effective for everyone, not just one. So now to link New York City and New York City Council, how can we all work together to allow this to run by itself, meaning to provide jobs for deaf and disabled people through building the Link NYC or the kiosks? So looking for solutions, we have them right here. We can reuse some of the products or build new kiosk or parts of the kiosk here from reusing the old ones. But in terms of the fiber, New York City people should be able to work together with people who have the skills that are already necessary, that already live here in New York. So I'm asking you to ask them to help you. So we want to see where the money goes. Where is the labor from? And how do we, what organizations can we all work together? There's a big, to me, there's a big difference between pre-pandemic, during pandemic, and after pandemic. Before the pandemic, we seemed to really work together to prepare ourselves for crises and for the next advanced technology advances. But right now, where is that success? And for new technology to be built and provided, I don't know what we're doing. Again, since January 1st, you all convened and none of us have heard from you. Here we are in May of 2022, and I'm excited that this is the right time for us to be getting together. I want to remind everyone to reach out to your people. We're all out here. We're interested in what you're doing as it impacts our lives. And we want to work together to develop the technology and to be successful and to have the kiosks run by themselves. We want to be a partnership in that. I know that the kiosks are being utilized by the tourists, but also it should be for the residents and everyone who comes to New York. Advertising should be tailored to the people who utilize the kiosk. Please don't forget about all the hard work we've put together.
Thank you. I'm sorry, can I, Irene, do I comment now or?
Oh, absolutely. I was just making sure that Ms. Davis finished her testimony.
And Ms. Davis is saying, yes, Chair Gutierrez.
Thank you. Thank you so much for testifying, but I get the sense that you've been in the movement and trying to increase accessibility and serving your community for a long time. So I appreciate you sticking around for the entirety of this hearing, but the hearings before.
Yes, I have been working. I've been involved in this project since its inception, since 2010.
Wow.
And I do see a big change. And I don't want that to stop until everyone understands how it works. So I'm hoping that this will become a run by itself endeavor that that it can be successfully run without asking for more money, and that the kiosks will work to their potential.
I agree. I think that's why we're all here. And I think that's why we constantly want to make it better. And so I do apologize that it seems like some of these questions were repetitive. It's really for me, since I'm new to the council and the committee, but I do want to say that I very much look forward to connecting with you after this hearing, with you and other members of the community, so that we can really work collaboratively with Link, with Do It, so that we can just make this what you envisioned it, and so that it can better serve every single community. So thank you again, and we will work together. We will figure out how to follow up with you right after, so that we can set some time to make this better.
Yes, the police, the firemen, everyone. I'm sorry. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself and I did interrupt you. Link has full potential to link all of New York City employees, firemen, policemen, anyone. And it's ready to be universal for all, because New York City is the capital of all tourism, right? So please don't worry about what's going on outside of New York. We're ready for advancement, and we're ready to pass along all that we have done. So, and I just wanted to thank you and wrap up my testimony.
Thank you for your testimony. We will 100% be reaching out so that we can sit down and kind of learn a little bit more about what the concerns are and how we can improve it. That's my goal, and I think that's all of our goal, every partner that's on here. Thank you so much for your testimony.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Ms. Davis, I want to thank you again, sincerely thank you for your testimony. And I want to let you know that we as a committee have your contact information, and we will be contacting you in the future to discuss your concerns and details. And now I would like to move to our next panelist, and our next panelist is Lori Hannon.
Okay.
Starting time.
Am I unmuted? Okay. I was going to say good morning, but good afternoon, members of the New York City Council. It's been very interesting. My name is Dr. Lori Hannon. I'm the Executive Director at the Center for Hearing and Communication in downtown Manhattan, or CHC. I'm proud to testify today on behalf of CHC about the Link NYC program. CHC is a private, not-for-profit rehabilitation center for people of all ages who have hearing loss. We were established in 1910 and provide a wide range of services, including hearing testing, hearing aid dispensing, speech and language therapy, educational support, and mental health counseling. We're licensed as an Article 28 diagnostic and treatment center and an Article 31 outpatient mental health clinic by the state. We provide services to all regardless of an ability to pay, predominantly New Yorkers. We know that the Link NYC program greatly benefits businesses, workers, residents, and tourists. And now we know firsthand how much it can benefit nonprofit organizations like CHC, and in turn, the many New Yorkers who could benefit from our services. Evidence shows that over 10 million New Yorkers and visitors have used the free Wi-Fi network provided by Link NYC, which has become a lifeline for access to the internet, free nationwide calling, 911 emergency services, and city services. Access to the internet is extremely important to the population we serve, as, for instance, texting has become such an inclusive method of communication for people with hearing loss. In addition to internet access, the kiosks provide a video relay system which allows deaf and hard of hearing New Yorkers and visitors the ability to communicate with anyone, a great option for those who may not have reliable internet access at home. Recently, CHC was given the opportunity to have free of charge advertising on the Link NYC kiosks as part of the Link Local program. This opportunity is priceless to us because while we provide the highest quality of hearing healthcare to our clients, We know that there are many more who need our help that we have not reached. We have essentially no budget for advertising, and being able to relay our message to the millions of New Yorkers who may pass by the screens is something we never could have done on our own. Almost 1 million New York adults have a hearing loss, and most do not seek treatment for it. The attention given to hearing loss in our campaign, shown on the Link NYC screens, can go a long way to bringing attention to this chronic issue and help us reach more people in need of our care. We're excited to see the program grow and continue to expand the services provided for our city and to help the communities that need it the most, including the deaf and hard of hearing community. Expanding the program to include 5G should help to improve connectivity for all New Yorkers, and particularly those with hearing loss. We're very glad that the city has been able to join with City Bridge to continue to expand this program, and we thank everybody involved for the opportunity given. We look forward to seeing the program continue and succeed.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
I would like to turn to council members who have questions, and I do not see anyone who has questions right now, and I will move to our next panelist. And I want to mention that we ask to limit your testimony to 3 minutes. And our next panelist will be Michael Santorelli and Albert Foxconn. Mr. Santorelli?
Starting time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm the director of the Advanced Communications Law and Policy Institute at New York Law School. The ACLP has been actively involved in broadband issues in New York City for the past 17 years. And during that time, we've had a chance to work with numerous stakeholders in the public, private, nonprofit sectors on connectivity challenges facing the city. A common thread across all of that work is that the city for far too long has underinvested in broadband adoption and digital literacy issues. And the profound struggles of Link NYC, which have been chronicled extensively in outlets like the city most recently, offer lessons that can inform a more comprehensive broadband strategy for the city going forward. The first lesson is that broadband adoption challenges cannot be solved simply by increasing the supply of broadband. In a city where broadband is already universally available, the focus of policymakers and other stakeholders should be on doing everything possible to bring more adopters, more non-adopters online via available connections. Connecting the unconnected is hard work because the reasons for non-adoption are largely personal and vary widely from community to community. Fortunately, the city is home to a lot of great organizations that are helping to connect the unconnected every day. If the city is truly serious about closing the digital divide, then it will provide those groups with more resources so they can increase their reach and bring more people online. The second lesson is that New York City does not have a broadband supply problem. Broadband abounds here, and for those who qualify, there are multiple options for free broadband service from Charter, T-Mobile, and Verizon, among others, thanks to federal subsidies available from the Affordable Connectivity Program. In other words, the affordability barrier has been substantially reduced, if not eliminated, for many non-adopters in the city. Is the city aware of these offerings? Does the city have a strategy for maximizing participation in the ACP? Is the city collecting data on ACP enrollment? Is there a strategy for ensuring that those who are availing themselves of these subsidies also have access to digital literacy programming? These questions deserve answers. The third lesson is that 5G is a valuable on-ramp to the internet, and the city appears to agree, given its renegotiated deal with City Bridge. Over the last few years, there's been significant organic growth in both fixed and mobile 5G across the city, thanks to providers like T-Mobile and Starry that have injected additional competition into the local market. But the city needs to do more to unlock additional investment in deployment of 5G. The new City Bridge deal might be helpful in this regard, providing additional locations for antennas, but given Link NYC's track record of slow deployment, and it might be.
You can summarize your testimony, Mr.
Okay, sure. So regarding 5G, the city should focus more on streamlining the approvals process for accessing city-owned assets to really speed 5G deployment. And then the final lesson learned is about just providing more oversight of city-led broadband actions. The city's recent track record on broadband projects and policymaking has been generally subpar. The council and the committee are to be commended for convening this hearing today, and more hearings, I think, could be helpful in shining a brighter light on these issues and making sure that what the city is doing is both inclusive and equitable across the city. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And we are moving to our next panelist. And our next panelist is Albert Foxconn.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Chair Gutierrez, members of the City Council and staff. My name is Albert Foxconn, and I'm the Executive Director of the Surveillance Technology Oversight Project, a New York-based privacy nonprofit. I'm also a visiting fellow at Yale Law School's Information Society Project and a practitioner in residence at NYU Law School. And I'm here to tell you that Link NYC is a devil's bargain. It is a bad idea that has been implemented badly, and where New Yorkers have been forced to pick up the tab. And we should not conflate the transformative impact that broad-based 5G deployment and better access to Wi-Fi connectivity will have with the clumsy, clunky, and dysfunctional rollout of Link NYC, a partnership that has consistently failed to provide New Yorkers with the economic returns that was promised, but was a system that was built on a flawed premise. The idea that we should exchange our data and our privacy for free internet access. We wouldn't accept if we were told that we had to give away our private data in order to get free fire service or to get access to public education or to get access to healthcare. And that's exactly what's happening now, because we can't access these vital services without internet connectivity. You can't go to Zoom school without a reliable internet connection. You can't use telemedicine. And yet we've created the setup where instead of investing in public infrastructure that purely serves New Yorkers, we are creating these partnerships that are serving the bottom lines of private sector partners with a terrible track record of protecting New Yorkers' privacy. And contrary to what you've heard, this is a vast surveillance apparatus, because every one of these cameras, it's not simply something that can be used to look for vandalism. Anytime the NYPD wants this data for any purpose, they can simply subpoena it. They don't even need a warrant. The same goes for other types of data laid out in the Link NYC Transparency Report, such as IP data, subscriber data, MAC address data, various forms of identifying information. Imagine how much data could be collected from a Link NYC kiosk adjacent to a protest or adjacent to a house of worship or a reproductive healthcare facility. These are dangerous technologies to deploy without proper safeguards, and this is a company that has shown it cannot be trusted to safeguard New Yorkers' information. Instead, we should be investing in a true public sector alternative where we are deploying technology that simply delivers fast, reliable internet access and investing in the technology that New Yorkers need to access that, rather than deploying these truly dystopian, monoliths that now dot New York. I think that despite everything we've heard, there are much better ways to get New Yorkers the internet access they need.
Time expired.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And Chair Gutierrez, I believe you have some questions to the panelists.
Yes. Thank you so much, all of you, for your testimonies. I think this first question is for Albert. Is that okay if I refer to you by your first name?
Yes, please.
Great. I love what you said. Obviously, I think you come from a place of being super knowledgeable and having great concerns. And considering that I spent a significant amount of time of my questions on the privacy policy, what does your ideal privacy policy look like for this program, for the Link NYC program?
For me, it's not so much about the privacy policy, but the data that's being collected. So there's so much information that's being collected and retained that we don't actually need to deliver these services. We don't need lengthy amounts of IP data in order to deliver that. You can erase it as soon as the session is over. Same goes for MAC address data. With Bluetooth beacons, the answers you were getting were preposterous. So yes, Bluetooth beacons by their design are one direction, but there's a second part to that equation. the application on your phone is then transmitting the information from that Bluetooth beacon to any number of third-party data brokers that can capture that data and resell it. And so what we've seen in the Bluetooth beacon space, they can be a very powerful and lucrative way to make money for advertising. And here we're being assured, well, these Bluetooth beacons are not being used in that way yet. But there's nothing to stop a third party from using that data as part of targeted advertising. I think we all know that the idea that users are actually opting in to this sort of tracking, it's a legal fiction. No one actually reads the fine print. No one actually understands every place that their data goes. And when we hear that, it's a smokescreen.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. I agree. I actually brought that up before, where I said, you know, the part of I think the smoke show, in your words, about the privacy is really a way to kind of distract users. And I think that we should be making more of an effort to not just like simplify it, but just make the whole process easier, so that people feel more inclined to utilize it, but also feel safe. And so I really like your point about, you know, what is being done with the data, and how, you know, what the turnaround to eliminate that could be. We should be doing more to promote like security of the data that they have, as opposed to the opposite.
And if I could just also add, another issue with the privacy policy is the reference to anonymized data. We often see this in privacy policies where data that is supposedly anonymized, it's stripped of identifiers that often can be de-anonymized. It can oftentimes be reassociated with individual user data. So we have to understand what specific anonymization protocol are they using? How are they ensuring this data cannot be re-identified? And what are the steps they use to safeguard that? And similarly with the targeted ads, we were told that the bulletin boards are, that those display advertisements on the streets aren't targeted at individuals, but we didn't hear a definitive answer on whether aggregate user data is being used to help target those ads and where people are buying those outdoor advertisements. So I think there's a lot of additional details that are needed on those sort of terms and assurances.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I hear you. My next question is for Lori, if Lori is still available. Lori, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Lori. Thank you so much for your testimony and for your service and what you're doing. As someone that's new to this conversation, I know that you've been doing this advocacy for a long time. Can you share a little bit about what the primary concerns to access for your community have been regarding Link NYC?
We haven't had any complaints. The only people we've spoken to have been in favor of it, because if they didn't have internet access, like especially during the internet, then they had it. So, you know, I can't say that we've sorted out, and that's something that we could do. We have, you know, a newsletter that reaches a few thousand of our constituents. And if there's information, you know, that the city council would like to get, you know, like we'd be happy, you know, to survey our own clients and see, you know, what their use is not. We see people who communicate orally who don't use the relay, and many who also do. So we haven't really had, you know, many complaints about it. You know, that doesn't mean they're not out there. So, you know, if you'd like to work, you know, with us on that, we're happy to, you know, reach out and, you know, see how we could collaborate and get information for you.
Absolutely, I would. And just very quickly, do folks have any concerns around the 5G upgrades at all?
No, I think, you know, I'm an audiologist by degree, so not even close to really understanding all of the technology. I understand a little about the speed. I think the connectivity is probably a little more of an issue. You know, and if I understood anything right from what I heard today, and it's questionable, it sounds like the ability to just connect will be better with 5G. It doesn't mean it'll be quicker. And you know, I know just even trying to use my cell phone, I think I'm on 3G. I'm a little old fashioned. You know, sometimes it's just hard to connect. And then once you do, it's fine. And it seems as if the 5G maybe will be better. I know for the video relay, it does really need a strong connection, more so than just the text. So my guess is that down the road, that would make that stronger.
Thank you.
but not an
Okay.
expert. I could test your hearing, but
No, and I think it's good for us to also just follow up at some
sure,
point.
happy to. Happy to.
Okay, thank you, Irene. Those are my questions so far.
Thank you so much. I want to thank all panelists for great testimonies, and we're moving to the next panel. And our next panel will be Thomas Gretsch from Queens Chamber of Commerce, Vladimir Sterling from Brooklyn Chambers of Commerce, and Angie Brown from Fulton Business Improvement District. We'll start with Mr. Gretsch.
Thank you very much.
Time.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely. We can hear you. And I just want to remind that we ask everyone to limit testimony to 3 minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you, members of the City Council. This is a really important issue and worth the wait for 3 hours. Truly, truly is. I'm here today to testify in the Link NYC program, which does play a vital role in our city's economy. Again, my name is Thomas Gretsch, and I'm the president and CEO of the Queens Chamber of Commerce. If a city, Queens would be the 4th largest city in America. The Queens Chamber has seen firsthand what access to the internet means for our small businesses, our local citizens, and for visitors alike. Whether it's a small business using Link's free Wi-Fi to connect their mobile payment system, or a tourist looking for the best place to eat, or a school kid trying to access their online classes, Link's free Wi-Fi has been a game changer for many of our communities in Queens. My only ask is that we're able to deploy more kiosks with more of the services they provide: the free Wi-Fi, the screens that advertise our local businesses, and the tablets which connect people to much needed city services, things like food pantries. I was very glad to hear there's now a plan to deploy more kiosks with enhanced services, including 5G technology, and I hope the city will act quickly to realize this potential. We look forward to seeing this program's continued success and expansion. Thank you sincerely for the opportunity to testify. Tom Gretsch.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gretsch. And we're moving to our next panelist. And our next panelist is Vladimir Sterling.
Starting time.
Hi, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of the City Council, Chair Gutierrez, good afternoon. Once again, my name is Vladimir Sterling, Senior Director of Policy and Government Affairs at the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. And it's a pleasure today to testify on the Link NYC program. The Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce serves on the front lines of our city's economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and our businesses need all the help they can get. We've seen firsthand how Link kiosks have become a critical piece of our city's technological and economic infrastructure. The Links provide free, high-speed Wi-Fi that is accessible to businesses, residents, and visitors alike. This free Wi-Fi is critical to the success of our commercial corridors and the businesses within them. We are aware that the Link Locale and Power Comeback campaigns have provided free advertising to over 1,400 small businesses in Brooklyn and across the city of New York. The kiosks have also been a key resource for pandemic-related information and connections to city services. We're very glad that the Link program is poised to continue with expanded development of new and improved Link 5G smart poles, which will further enhance the services Link provides, as well as our city's global competitiveness. This program continued operation and expansion with a new design will undoubtedly be critical to the city's economic recovery from this pandemic. We hope the City Council will be partner in this effort. Thank you kindly for the opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Our next panelist is Angie Brown.
Starting time.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, members of City Council, Chair Gutierrez. My name is Angie Brown again, and I am the Assistant Director of the Fab Fulton Bid Business Improvement District in Fort Greene and Clinton Hill, Brooklyn. Our mission is to help the many businesses in our corridor succeed and to keep our streets clean and safe for the community. We've been very proud of our partnership with City Bridge and the Link NYC program over the past several years, where the links in our area regularly highlight bid happenings like our annual signature R360 events. We have free outdoor jazz concerts and family fun movie nights, as well as featuring our local small businesses through the Link Local and Small Business Sweetie campaigns. These partnership services are in addition to the critical free Wi-Fi and access to city services that they provide, which are so helpful to our businesses, our residents, and visitors alike. We're very glad to have these kiosks in our corridor, and we hope that many other communities can benefit from them the way that we have. We look forward to many more years of partnership with City Bridge and are grateful for the opportunity to testify today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, all panelists. And I just want to check with Chair Gutierrez if Chair or any other council members have any questions.
I do. I just want to thank the panelists for their testimony. For Angie, who is a bid director, or even Vladimir or Glenn from the Chamber's perspective, do you know of businesses that have been able to advertise using Link NYC? Or are you familiar with any of like the local businesses along those corridors where the kiosks exist, if they've been able to utilize it to help with operations of their business?
I'll go first. Yes, I do. I know of several restaurants who have used them to advertise specials to get the traffic flowing back into their establishments, especially since pandemic. There have been a lot of ads lately of which I've appreciated because it caught me by surprise because I don't think anyone consulted our office, but I've seen the food pantries and the times listed and the dates for people to find local food when they're in need. So I thought that was a good community use.
Thank you.
Very quickly, actually, this morning on my way into work, I saw an advertisement on Flatbush, as well as the prior speaker just said. It was a restaurant that was trying to get some locals and some foreigners to come in and visit their establishment.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Chair, for your questions. I do not see any additional questions from council members at this time. So we're moving to our next panelists, and our next panelist will be Julian Klein from Tech NYC, Clayton Banks from Silicon Harlem, Glenn Bolofsky from parkingtickets.com, and John Galt from Find Help.
Starting time.
Julian Klein. I do not see if we have Julian Klein right now, so we're moving to Glenn Bolofsky. Mr. Bolofsky.
Starting time.
Mr. Bolofsky. I see Mr. Bolofsky on Zoom, but he's still muted. Mr. Bolofsky, can you hear us?
Good afternoon, this is Glenn. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bolofsky.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for having this meeting today. It's great to see you and everyone from the council and the central staff. So we really greatly appreciate you organizing this meeting today. I'd like to point out just a couple of things that may or may not have been discussed today. One, with technology being so active at the city council using Zoom today, which is fantastic. We want to mention that the New York City Park Violation Bureau is the only agency that conducts hearings in the entire city, and as far as we know, the entire state, that doesn't allow any remote hearings.
Mr. Blosky, excuse me.
Yes.
Do you think you could try to unplug and replug your mic in? It's coming off with a lot of frequency.
Yeah. Here. Okay. Yeah.
Still a lot of feedback.
Give me, I'll log back in and come back.
Okay, yeah, we'll pick on you once you get back in. We'll go to the next panelist, Irene.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're welcome. We'll get back to you, and we're gonna move to our next panelist. And I see that we have Anthony Fallio.
Starting time.
Hi, hello, everyone. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Just listening to everybody's reports. I guess everyone sees this link New York City through their own set of eyes. So my name is Anthony Fallio. I'm the business representative with Local 3. I'm responsible for the men and women that work out in the street, for a number of our contractors that maintain, install, and repair the fiber network. And we've been involved with the 5G the last few years. Of course, just before COVID, it really started to get, rolled out, and then COVID, I guess, put a dent into it. So how does Local 3 view this through our set of eyes? It's definitely a great employment opportunity for our members. A lot of our families and their members are feeling the impact of the inflation and the economy as we move forward out of this COVID economy. And hopefully this does not become the new normal. New York City can once again start to move forward. I've been in contact with a lot of the contractors outside of New York, and they've completed the 5G network in Chicago, Atlanta, and now down in San Antonio. So there's a number of cities throughout the country that are prepared for the next phase of the 5G and the technology. And this is vital for New York to be considered in the running as a premier city, not just in New York or the country, but in the world. So again, Local 3 is definitely in support of the Link New York City program. Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Chair, do you have any question to the panelists?
I do, Anthony. I just have a quick question. Thank you so much for your testimony and for representing the workers of Local 3. Can you share how many workers are part of the local and how many of them are directly tied to the 5G infrastructure project?
Sure. So Local 3 represents a little over 28,000 electrical workers through all aspects, from whether it's transit or street lighting for the city or private contractors throughout the 5 boroughs. But in particular, there's about 10,000 members that are in construction, and that would be companies like O'Kane Electric, Doler Electric, Highland Electric. Those are some of the contractors that have been working with the 5G, and in particular, the Link New York City. I would say probably about close to 300 of our members installing the nodes, the antennas, the coax, the fiber in the street, as well as the kiosks throughout the city. Over the last few years, have been affiliated with this project.
Thank you. And are you able to share how many of your members are women working on this project?
That I don't have the statistics for. I'm sure I could probably get back to you. After I reach out to the contractors to find out how many women are involved in construction.
Thank you. Thank you. I would love to learn that. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions, Chair. And I see that Ms. Lambeth has her hand up. Ms. Lambeth?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chairwoman, I just wanted to add, because I didn't catch this before, but just so you know, of the 1 million feet of fiber that was already laid for this project and the 1 million more that's planned to be laid, all of that was done by Local 3 labor.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Chair, do we have any additional questions?
No, but I see Glenn is back.
Should we then move to his testimony, Glenn?
I hope you can hear me
Glenn,
well
give us-
now.
Yes, we
Sound
can
great
hear
now.
much better.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great to see you, Madam Chairwoman. Jennifer, great to see you. And thank all the council staff, central staff and council members, and everyone else who's here as panelists as well for contributing to improve our city, which is communication so important. And this Zoom communication is terrific because people can get things done safely. Remote hearings are vital. And as I was starting to say earlier, I don't know if anyone could hear me, of all the agencies throughout the city and state, there's only one lone agency, the New York City Parking Violations Bureau, that I'm aware of, that refuses to allow remote hearings. So if you're a senior citizen, you can't get around so well, or if you're a disabled individual, or just the average guy or average girl who just wants to, have a hearing on the record and present your oral arguments, you are required to come in and do it live face-to-face, where they're requiring live masks, etc. And we'd like them to implement the technology that we're all using, and we would appreciate any help there because it's just unfair to the public, putting a tremendous burden on the public, especially now that unfortunately the COVID is rising a little bit higher to the new level announced yesterday. The second thing I'd like to just quickly speak about, and I apologize for being a born and bred New Yorker, speaking so quickly. So parking signs. On a recent testimony by Councilwoman Mercedes Narcisse out of Brooklyn, she testified on the Infrastructure Committee for Transportation last week that she can't read the signs at night. They're dark. So I don't understand why in this day and age, the parking signs have to be metal. Why can't they be LED displays? Why can't they be in every language? Why can't they be at least in 2 languages? Why can't they be in your car on your dashboard so you don't have to get out in the cold, in the rain, in the freezing, and just like Easy Pass, just sync up when you're in that zone, tell you what the rules are in multiple languages, and generate revenue. These are like mini billboard advertisements for Allstate and Geico and every car dealership in the New York metro area and beyond. So that's my testimony today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Chair Gutierrez, do you have any questions?
No, Glenn, thank you so much. We'll surely capture all of that and I think kind of take a little bit of that testimony to share with some of my colleagues in other committees. And don't ever apologize for being a born and bred New Yorker.
Just being fast.
No. Thank you. Thank you
No,
so
I'm
much. for your
proud.
testimony.
Thank you so much. Thank
Of
you.
course. Thanks, Irene.
Oh, sure. We're moving on to our next panelist, and our next panelist will be Indira Seaman, Walter Purview, Arturo Chain, and Alex Rock.
Starting time.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify on Link NYC. The Partnership for New York City represents private sector employers of more than 1 million New Yorkers. We work together with government, labor, and the nonprofit sector to maintain the city's position as the preeminent global center of commerce, innovation, and economic opportunity. The partnership supports the city's continuation of its contract with Link NYC to help achieve universal internet access and to accelerate the rollout of 5G technology. The planned expansion of the Link kiosks promises to be the fastest and lowest cost option to achieve these goals. Link NYC offers the largest free municipal Wi-Fi network in the United States and has provided internet and other services to more than 10 million users since its inception. We appreciate that the startup of this innovative system had some glitches, but those have been addressed, and we feel confident that Link NYC is well prepared to carry out the next phase of development. The new Link 5G kiosks are designed to support the expanded internet needs of the post-pandemic digital economy. New York City is behind competitor cities in the development of 5G infrastructure. 5G offers faster cellular service and data speeds that are necessary to keep pace with the demands of business, education, healthcare, and online entertainment. The new kiosks have poles that are high enough to provide good service and accommodate multiple carriers, ensuring that New Yorkers have the most options for service at the lowest possible cost. We look forward to the continued expansion of the Link NYC program. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Let's move on to next panelist. And next panelist is Walter Purview.
Starting time.
Oh, great. Hi, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I can't see you very well.
Yes,
can
we
you hear
can.
me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi. My name is Walter Pierre, and I'm the Senior Director of the Andrew Freeman Home in the South Bronx. We're a community-based organization in a historic building with the mission of extending economics, cultural, and social opportunities to local residents. We have an artist in residency, a small incubator, a pre-K, and daycare services. We also do digital workforce development with our partner Knowledge House, digital community services for seniors in the community of District 4, and community food service and digital literacy. We're proud to be partnering with Link NYC to launch the second of the 5 planned Gigabit Centers at the Andrew Freeman Home. This will follow the launch at the Silicon Harlem space. And what this means is that Zenfi will be connecting our building to free high-speed broadband fiber, and we will be able to offer free internet services to the community we serve. We will also provide improved access for the local community as far as local information regarding cultural events, youth activities and crime, improved connectivity, which can enhance job opportunity and entrepreneurship for community District 4 in the Bronx, and greater connectivity and services to families that utilize our daycare. Our daycare serves 220 children up until the pandemic, and we hope to return to those numbers. The partnership is the result of productive conversations with Zenfi and in community groups, as well as DreamYards and Bronx Community Foundation. We're grateful for Zenfi's incredible partnership for the city support for the Link NYC program.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Our next panelist is Arturo Chang.
Starting time.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Gutierrez and members of the New York Council. My name is Arturo Chang, and I am Director and Senior Counsel of State Government Affairs at the Wireless Infrastructure Association, or WIA. We represent the companies that design, manage, build, and operate wireless infrastructure in the United States and across the world. I'm here today to testify on the Link NYC program and its tremendous capacity and capabilities to enhance the life of New Yorkers. I'm going to keep my testimony short, giving everybody's time. But what I hear, New York is facing many challenges. Many of the challenges that I'm working with legislators across the country on, which is, you need to have access to connectivity, you need to have access to increased infrastructure, and there's a lot of that going on. New York City has a unique challenge, of course, being not only the density of the city, but the capacity and the tremendous need for wireless connectivity. To that end, one of the first questions the wireless industry receives is how quickly can it be deployed, and how many antennas can you put in one particular area in a box or two? The Link 5G design, the revised one, is revolutionary in my view. I have not seen a single point of contact to install all these antennas and equipment. And so I know there was an earlier discussion about how to proliferate the wireless infrastructure and what are the options. Well, on the one hand, many cities do not have this new infrastructure that is available in New York City. And so what you may have is the additional need to install equipment on poles, on bus stations, and so forth. Whereas this new Link 5G structure is unique in its ability to provide wireless, but also 5G services through the city. As many of us know, COVID has normalized many activities that we now take for granted, from telehealth, virtual learning, remote learning, staying connected with friends and family, public safety, and so forth. And there really is a high need of capacity and connectivity. And let me just take a quick minute to distinguish the both, because a lot of the times we get questions about why do I need this equipment if I have 5 bars on my phone all the time. Having coverage on your phone means very little unless you have capacity. They're two distinct things. So you may have 5 bars in your phone, but if the pipes are very clogged, then you have the situation where photos can't get through, you can't access the internet. A lot of the times you may have your phone with full coverage and then you have no ability to do anything, and that's an issue with capacity. And this is where 5G comes into the picture. This is where the Link 5G structure comes into place. And we're in support of this technology that will really change and enhance the life of New Yorkers. So thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Our next panelist is Ollie Kroc.
Starting time.
Hi there, my name is Alex Fouquet. I'm the president and executive director of the Ollie Forney Center. The Ollie Forney Center was founded in 2002 and provides services to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender young people who are kicked out of their homes. Every year we see almost 2,000 young people between the ages of 16 and 24 who've been rejected by their families. We provide emergency and transitional housing across New York City, as well as access to healthcare, medical services, vocational and educational services throughout our 18 sites. Our goal is to get our young people off the streets and living independently. For our clients and for many New Yorkers, their cell phone is a critical component of their survival. Having access to reliable, fast cellular services and free and reliable Wi-Fi is one of the utmost importance for the safety and security of our clients. Link NYC provides an important utility for our clients by offering free, fast Wi-Fi throughout the city, free Wi-Fi that is hard to come by, particularly for some of our clients who do not feel comfortable or welcome in some public indoor spaces. In addition to the Wi-Fi, Link provides free national calling, 911, access to critical city services. These offerings need to be made available throughout the city, which is why I'm supportive not only of the current program, but of expansion to the program to more neighborhoods. In December of last year, I spoke in support of Link NYC design in Link 5G. The technology Link 5G enables will have an immediate positive impact on our clients and in the communities within they live. In many of the areas of our clients live, cellular services substandard at best. The new Link 5G Kiosk will help improve cellular networks across the city while simultaneously expanding neighborhoods who have access to existing services that Link provides. This program and the structures are not just nice to have, they are a necessity for our clients and they need to be deployed equitably throughout the city, both where we work and where we live. This is an essential in access to public spaces like restrooms, water fountains, and subway stations. These kiosks are a lifeline. Like I said earlier, our clients do not feel safe in many spaces. These kiosks offer them an independent, safe space to connect to services and access, which is very limited for marginalized populations, especially those who are marginalized within marginalized communities. Thank you so much for your time today and for your work to help improve our city's communication.
Thank you. Thank you all panelists, and thank you, Mr. Rocky, and I apologize for mispronouncing your last name. I do not see any questions from council members at this point, and we're moving to our final panelists and our panelists will be Peter Risingo, Bruce Lincoln, Marsha Howell, Jessica Talder, and Calder Zwiski, and I apologize if I mispronounce any names.
Starting time.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter Rashino, and I'm with the New York Electrical Contractors Association, New York City's leading trade association of unionized electrical contractors. On behalf of the 200 electrical contractors associated with New York Electrical Contractors Association and the 10,000 local 3 IBEW electricians employed by NECA contractors, thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of the Link NYC's program. New Yorkers are familiar with Link NYC kiosks that have popped up all over New York City. As a result, New Yorkers are benefiting from free public Wi-Fi, the ability to make phone calls or charge their phones, access emergency services, and information such as the weather, news, and much more. Link NYC has grown to become the world's largest and fastest free public Wi-Fi network with over 10 million users on over 2,000 kiosks. Perhaps what is less known about Link NYC is the infrastructure needed to support it and how it is built. Members of New York Electrical and the men and women of Local 3 they employ are running the fiber infrastructure through the manholes across the city to tie the kiosks in every single day. Nearly 1 million feet of new fiber infrastructure was installed in the first phase of this project. The City Bridge Consortium, including its new partner Zenfi, estimate that the next phase will double that fiber footprint. With more fiber installation, new kiosks can be installed, connecting even more people to the benefits of Link NYC. Aside from the benefits of an expanded network, Link NYC has been a massive driver of economic output and job creation for many New Yorkers. New York electrical contractors, through a collective bargaining agreement with Local 3, pay living wages for the thousands of hours of work that have been performed and will be performed under this program. As I mentioned before, the promise of phase 2 of this project will require New York electrical contractors to place, splice, test, and maintain more fiber optic cable, install more kiosks, employ more electricians, pay more wages, and connect more people, especially the people living in the underserved communities across the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and Upper Manhattan. In addition to the expanded fiber infrastructure, the next phase of Link NYC will include the installation of Link 5Gs. The deployment of small cells across New York City has provided a significant amount of work since 2008. Over the past 2 years, there have been a slowdown in the small cell deployments due to a shortage of 5G suitable siting locations. This has impacted our contractors not just in deployment of these nodes, but also in the deployment of new fiber infrastructure. Link 5G would provide a much needed opening of supply for the carriers, which would translate to significant work opportunity for our contractors. In closing, the possibilities of Link NYC are endless. In addition to the critical service provided by the kiosks, the fiber infrastructure being laid now can be used in the future to bring additional broadband options to homes as part of a growing 5G network. 5G is here, and this cutting-edge technology will keep our city competitive, our people connected, our children learning, and our electricians working. Thank you for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Our next panelist will be Bruce Lincoln, followed by Marsha Howell.
Starting time.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's an honor to present this testimony and endorsement of Zenfi's Link 5G platform. My name is Bruce Lincoln, and I had the honor of addressing this esteemed body when we were supporting the adoption and dissemination of the Link NYC program. At that time, I was a member of Mayor de Blasio's Broadband Advisory Committee, and currently, I'm a senior fellow with the Columbia Institute for Teleinformation. The purpose of my testimony at this juncture is to emphasize the critical importance of the public dissemination of Link 5G kiosks as developed by Zenfi. I believe that you are all familiar with, of course, the longstanding problem is the digital divide, where there are those who do not have access to the benefits of broadband internet access and the opportunities associated with digital inclusion. I have been involved since the 90s with the amelioration of the digital divide, and I can, with firsthand experience and expertise, speak to how, after so many well-intentioned efforts, the Zenfi technological solution represents the best of breed innovation as it has to do with addressing the issue of providing the populace with free gigabit speed broadband internet access in a public space. We have all heard the adage of how form follows function. In this unique case, what exemplifies Zenfi's solution is that function drove form. The Link 5G kiosk provides not only an expanded radius as far as the individual being able to pick up access to an open broadband network as they are walking by, but the structure itself allows the major carriers to piggyback on the link, which serves as a neutral host for them to place their equipment. This is a triple win. The public citizen gains access to high-speed broadband for free. The carriers gain access to the edge network, allowing them to get closer to the user, thus achieving true 5G. And the city accomplishes its goal of bringing free gigabit broadband to communities. More so, the Link 5G infrastructure and functionality is what is the only way in which the public digital divide can be ameliorated. It combines state-of-the-art engineering with the capital resources to deliver a sustainable solution. I can personally attest that Zenfi has spent countless hours with community stakeholders learning about the particular needs of underserved communities, and their design and dissemination strategy takes these learnings into consideration. As a long-term technology professional and member of the home community, I strongly support this proposed design and urge the City Council to support it as well. Thank you for your kind consideration of my testimony on this important issue.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Our next speaker is Marsha Howell.
Starting time.
Hello, my name is Marsha Lorente Howell, and thank you so much for hearing my testimony. Members of the City Council, I know I'm towards the end, so I'll be short, but I'm an artist and I participated on the Art on Link program. I just wanted to say it was a wonderful experience. I found out about it kind of the same way I find out about art that I loved. I just walk around the city and saw some beautiful art displayed, and then went online and found out you have this program. So on the month of April, about 10 of my paintings, I paint my walks around the city with my dog Elvis. So my Walking Elvis series was displayed across the city. I saw immediate response on traffic to my website. I have sold some artwork, and I have recommended it to all of my artists, colleagues, and friends. I should also note that I started selling my artwork about 5 years ago. I have a career in advertising prior to that, so I'm very well aware of the value of what I got. I could never afford, obviously, to advertise my art in such way. And for that reason, too, I actually started my own art gallery. I organize pop-up shows in the Lower East Side for women artists. The next one is in May, and also through Art on Link, there's the feature where you can apply as a local business. You probably all know this, but I did not know that as just a member of the community, to advertise the fact that we're hosting an all-women art show in the Lower East Side on May 18th under Supergirl Gallery, which is the name of my gallery. So I just wanted to commend you for these efforts, and also encourage and support any initiatives to continue to use this space to promote communities, promote business, promote local small business, and promote diversity, because I'm a Latina artist. It is harder to get represented, to get space, to get gallery representation. And the fact that my art was displayed in such beautiful way across the city was just kind of a dream come true, and something I could have never dreamt of. So thank you so much for all the work that you're doing, and much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jessica Tolder.
Starting time.
Hi, it's Jessica Toledano. Thank you, Madam Chair, the council, and members of the staff for having us here today. I'm testifying as the executive director of FYI. We're a nonprofit media agency based here in New York. We work almost exclusively with nonprofit clients. We do really three things. We do creative for nonprofits at a very discounted rate. We run our own out-of-home PSA network here in New York and nationally, with 1.2 million impressions in nonprofit spaces here in New York that's offered free to any nonprofit. And nationally, we have 23 million impressions offered free to any nonprofit in the nation. And we also work with many artists on many on discounted campaigns for nonprofits. And we negotiate media buys at discounted and donated rates for nonprofits here in New York and nationally. Link NYC serves a critical role for many nonprofits here in New York. There is an informational inequity all over our country, and that's become a very serious problem in the time of misinformation and disinformation in this country. Of the $285 billion spent in the advertising space, only 2% of those dollars are for nonprofits. Nonprofits are left to figure it out, to try to get their messages to disenfranchised and marginalized communities. And Link NYC provides a vital service to these nonprofits by giving them thousands of dollars of donated advertising space in New York City, the most, as we're all aware, the most expensive media market in our nation. Right now, you can go over to the South Bronx and see that we worked with Bronx Healthy Start on a breastfeeding campaign that promotes breastfeeding for women, because the rate of breastfeeding, apparently, according to Bronx Healthy Starts, goes from 99% in the hospital to 23% when they leave the hospital. So they want to promote breastfeeding as a community activity, and that women should be encouraged, parents should be encouraged, families should be encouraged to promote breastfeeding. We also did a critical and important vaccine campaign with Bronx Health Reach, also in the South Bronx. Link NYC gave us 100 donated screens which was incredibly generous. And we were able to run a very important targeted campaign to people who are not yet vaccinated. This is just two of many of the campaigns they've helped us on. I am deeply appreciative to them. And I just want to thank everyone for your time. I hope that we continue to expand the network here in New York. There are many areas, parts of Queens, that I think it would be critically important to be able to get PSAs and information out to nonprofits who are generally being silenced in the public square. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, and I want to thank everyone who testified today for their valuable testimonies. And if we have missed anyone who has registered to testify today and has yet have been called, please use the Zoom raise hand function, and I will call on you in order you have raised your hand. And I do not see anyone right now, and I will turn over to our Chair Gutierrez for any closing remarks and to adjourn the hearing.
Thank you, Irene, and thank you to every single panelist today. I want to give just a special thank you to City Bridge and Zenfi for sticking around for the duration of the marathon hearing today, and obviously any representative that's still on from GUID, and of course to our very patient panelists. The goal of this conversation is obviously to continue to improve this service and to create spaces for conversations around equity and access for every single New Yorker. So I thoroughly appreciate your participation today, and I want to shout out my committee for an awesome job in preparation. And that is all. And if I can make a plug for today at 5 o'clock, Fully Square, come out. If anyone is able to show your support, please do so. Thank you, Irene. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I will end live stream.
And yes, the